Good afternoon and welcome everyone once again. Thank you for joining us today. If I could just invite you all to make your way to your seats. A very warm welcome to our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to the Liveability Challenge 2026. If I could just invite everyone to turn your phones to silent mode, as we will be having live pictures later, and we want to make sure we minimize any distraction for our finalists. And of course, make yourselves comfortable. Once again, I'll pull up the QR code on the screen for our commute survey, and just invite everyone to please let us know how you made your way to the event today. We take this into account for our annual carbon emissions accounting. You'll also find some QR codes on the back of your delegate badge, which will link you to the program for today, our feedback form that you can fill after the event, and lastly, a link to our EB membership plans, where you can learn more about the benefits of becoming a member, including unlimited access to our content, exclusive events, and training. Please also remember to return your lanyards at the boxes located at the entrance before you leave today. As you can see, they're printed with a special TLC logo, so we are planning to reuse this for our future editions. And to our virtual audience, thank you for joining us. Please feel free to engage with us in the comments section of our live stream, where you can also find a link to the program. Our hashtag for today, if anyone is still using hashtags, is TLC2026, so do please help us to share the excitement from today's events with your network. For now, please sit back and relax as we kick things off officially with the TLC opening video that we've prepared specially for you.
Every year, the climate clock ticks louder. Our planet existed in a state of balance for billions of years. Until one species changed everything. What took nature millennia to build, human beings have destabilized in barely a century. Across the globe, temperatures continue to climb to unprecedented levels. Intensifying heat, extreme weather, mounting environmental decline. The moment to act has never been a more critical moment. Climate change is no longer a problem for future generations. It's ours to solve. The scale of what needs fixing has never been greater. Neither has the opportunity for those bold enough to try.
Finale of the Liveability Challenge 2026 here at Marina Bay Sands, and to everybody watching from elsewhere around the world, it's very good to have you with us remotely. Thank you for joining us. My name's Steve Dawson.
Steve, you need to on your mic. And I'm Shireen Keshwani.
It's a good job I was
now we can finally hear you, Steve. Awesome.
Did you all hear me at the back, incidentally? Because that proves that I can really yell if I want to. Huh?
I wasn't worried. His projection is amazing. But yes, I'm Shireen Keshwani, and we are delighted to be your hosts for today.
I hope all of you enjoyed that wonderful video. It does give a glimpse, doesn't it, to the rich history that we have in this challenge.
It does. And it's very heartening, honestly, to see how much the Liveability Challenge, or TLC as we affectionately call it, has grown since it was launched in 2018 with the leadership of Temasek Foundation.
Yeah, it's my second time here on the stage, but I've been very excited to be a pitch coach over the last few years, and I can tell you with quite a lot of confidence that each year the cohorts get more and more impressive, and you audience members are rather lucky because you're in for a very exciting afternoon.
That's right. And Steve, we're glad to have you back here with us. For those of you who are joining us here at TLC for the first time, TLC is one of Asia's largest sustainability solutions platforms presented by Temasek Foundation and organized by Ecobusiness. This is now our 9th edition of the challenge, and it's been a record-breaking year for us as we've received over 1,500 entries from more than 100 countries across the globe.
Well, since its launch in 2018, TLC has incubated and supported some 54 startups, distributed more than $14 million in funding, and these startups have gone on to raise millions of dollars more since then. Beyond the finalists that you'll hear from today, TLC has also played a key role in building an ecosystem of startups, investors, corporates, and experts committed to accelerating the allocation of capital into sustainability.
And it's all been made possible thanks to the support of Temasek Foundation and their vision and leadership in accelerating sustainability solutions here in Singapore, the region, and beyond. This year, we're also happy to announce that A-Star joins us as a co-presenter for the decarbonization track, committing up to $2 million annually for the next 3 years and providing our winning teams with increased access to accelerate their technology development and commercialization pathways. We also want to take a moment to thank our strategic partners. We have Carbon Fix, Enterprise Singapore, and Kibo Invest for contributing even more funding on the table for our finalists, as well as Breakthrough Energy for their sponsorship.
We'd also like to thank our challenge partners for lending their expertise during our shortlisting process, and indeed our venue partners.
TLC has also been supported by our amplifier partners, who have helped to nominate startups within their ecosystems, and our outreach partners from across the world, helping us to attract this many applications in our 2 chosen tracks, decarbonization and Cool Earth. And with the help of our expert panel of shortlisting judges who met in person to further evaluate these teams, we've narrowed it down to 8 finalist teams from across the United Kingdom, the United States of America, Japan, Estonia, France, and of course, 2 homegrown startups from Singapore.
Well, before we invite the teams to deliver their pitches, we're delighted to introduce our strategic partners and judges for the grand finale this year. We have with us today Michael Klaar, founding partner, Better Byte Ventures, representing Carbon Fix, a climate-obsessed family office based in the Netherlands.
Next, we have with us Emily Liu, Assistant Managing Director of Innovation at Enterprise Singapore, the government agency championing enterprise development.
A very familiar face, Heng Li Lang, Head of Climate and Liveability, Temasek Foundation. That's the philanthropic arm of Temasek Holdings.
You have some fans in the audience. Next, we have Irene Cheong, Assistant Chief Executive of Innovation and Enterprise from A-Star, Singapore's lead public research agency.
And last, but certainly not least, Cornel Tetera, Investment Director, Climate Kibo Invest, a Singapore-based private investment office focused on climate technology.
Thank you to our judges for joining us here today and lending us your expertise.
And now, we'd like to introduce the teams who have traveled from around the world to be with us here this afternoon. Can we invite all of the finalist teams to stand up once they hear their names so that we can allow the audience to see you? Our teams today are Power to Hydrogen, Endo Enterprises, Yama, Meta 8, Space Cool, Up Catalyst, Flu Vault, and Macrocycle Technologies. More people with fans in the audience. Good to hear and good to see. Now, for the moment we've all been waiting for, I'll hand the time over to Shirin to kickstart this live pitch segment.
Thank you, Steve. Now we get to the really exciting part and we're going to get things going. So actually in the past years, we've gotten finalists to submit a video of their pitch. But since last year, we've been getting teams to come down to Singapore and pitch live. And honestly, nothing beats the energy of hearing their presentations on stage. Everyone in the audience here today also gets to join in on the fun because we'll be launching an audience poll later for both our in-person and for our virtual attendees as well. So this will be your chance to vote for your favorite team. So do keep a lookout for that. The teams pitching today have created disruptive innovations to address the pressing issues we face across the tracks of decarbonization and cool Earth. We will be hearing from 8 finalist teams today, and each team will have 7 minutes for their pitch, followed by a live Q&A segment of 5 minutes with our judges. We will play, sorry, this is to the teams, but we will play a sound at the halfway mark and when you have 1 minute left, so do keep an ear out for that. But we also have the countdown timers in front of you, so you can keep an eye on the time. In consideration of our finalists, we also ask that there is no flash photography during the presentations so that we make sure that they're not distracted by anything that goes on while they're giving their presentations. So to our finalists, once again, you have 7 minutes for your presentations, and right after your 7 minutes is up, we will actually cut the audio of your microphones. So, sorry, it's a little harsh, but we gotta keep the time tight. So for our first team today, could I please welcome to stage Power to Hydrogen. Representing them in their pitch is their Chief Commercial Officer, Alex Zorniger. Power to Hydrogen uses a low-cost hydrogen production system with 5 times greater durability and lower capex. Alex will get the timer started for you, the 5-second countdown, and when it's done, you can start.
Is this thing on? Can you hear me okay on this? Yeah? Okay, good. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Zorniger. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Power to Hydrogen, and we are delivering on hydrogen's promise in decarbonizing Singapore's industry. For a quick background on Power to Hydrogen, so we are backed by some of the leaders in hydrogen technology across the value chain. From Asahi Kasei, an electrolysis equipment manufacturer, Air Liquide, one of the world's largest hydrogen producers, and Worthington Industries, a large player in hydrogen storage and transportation. And today we have some of the world's greatest energy companies as our customers, like Shell, Enel Green Power, Repsol, and more. So why are these companies interested in Power to Hydrogen? So if they were to buy an electrolyzer today to make clean hydrogen, they could buy 2 types. They can buy an alkaline electrolyzer or a PEM, or a proton exchange membrane electrolyzer. We like to say the alkaline electrolyzer is like the Ford Model T, the first car ever invented. It was literally invented over 100 years ago in the 1920s. Today, it can be fairly low cost, but has a variety of performance challenges. It's low pressure, low purity, it can't integrate with any source of variable electricity, so these all create very big OpEx challenges. PEM electrolyzers solve all of these performance challenges, but they're very, very expensive, like a Ferrari. You need iridium, platinum, titanium, and gold, so they're very expensive. So customers have to choose between low performance or low cost. So Power to Hydrogen is the first company in the world with an industrial scale, what we would call AEM, or anion exchange membrane electrolyzer. It's a new type of electrolyzer where we can deliver the PEM-like performance, but you only need things like steel, nickel, and iron, so it's much, much lower cost. So we have 250 kilowatt electrolysis stacks today, which are the largest in the world. What does this deliver on economics? So it's going to be a 65% lower cost stack than a PEM electrolyzer with our low-cost materials. When you consider it to alkaline, it's about 50% lower electricity use because you can use intermittent electricity, it's more efficient. And then companies have been pursuing AM electrolysis for a while, but we really cracked the code on the durability, so it's about 500% more durable than what's shown as state-of-the-art for AM electrolysis, which is why we're first to market in the field with this technology. The great thing, this technology is not just in the lab, it's already in the field. So we've done pilots across the world, and we're delivering our first 2 commercial scale systems, which are 500 kilowatt systems, to various projects in Europe this year. So how does this relate to Singapore? We believe this technology can be a solution to key challenges in industrial and transportation decarbonization, which make up about 57% of Singapore's emissions. How we want to bring this to the market in our beachhead approach. So semiconductor manufacturing is a big focus in the Singaporean market. They use a lot of hydrogen in this process for various different things in the semiconductor manufacturing process. The great thing about using this as a beachhead strategy is the semiconductor manufacturing facilities need very, very high purity hydrogen. So their willingness to pay, it's not the $2 per kilogram that you would see from industrial oil and gas companies. It's more like $20 per kilogram because it's 79 or 99.99. It's very pure. So for this project, what we want to do is focus on deploying our technology and developing a really optimized use case to decarbonize these semiconductor manufacturing use cases. So this would be about a 5 megawatt system to design and focusing really on the purity for this specific application. So the pilot scope is a 5 megawatt system design to optimize for the semiconductor decarbonization use case. We would also, within this pilot scope, deploy a 10 kilowatt system. This is a really good test case system. It's not extremely expensive. We're working with our partner and investor Air Liquide now, which already serves some of the semiconductor customers in the Singaporean market. And we have history with this. So previously, we've worked on 10 kilowatt pilot systems and shown that the performance will linearly scale up to the megawatt scale. So we feel this is a good way, low risk, but also representative of what it will look like in the field. What we're seeing is we think this project for the design and development and deployment will be about $1.75 million. We already have $750,000 allocated by the US government. So we're looking for an additional $1 million to complete this project. In Singapore, we're working with Air Liquide and then NTU to be able to identify the right semiconductor use case and customer. So that's underway right now with Air Liquide that's already serving those customers. The beautiful thing about this approach and this design project that we're working on is it's really a platform approach. 5 megawatts is perfect for the semiconductor use case, but it's also going to be a module for much larger opportunities. So things like large e-methanol or ammonia plants, they can use that 5 megawatt module for the 100 megawatt plant size that's more refinery scale to be able to develop these low carbon liquid fuels that can also help Singapore decarbonize on the transportation side. For the project timeline, what we're looking at, so we're kind of in mid-2026 right now. This will be a 10 to 12-month project for the design and deployment of the pilot system. So that will take us to mid-2027 before we can deliver those first units to begin decarbonizing semiconductor operations in Singapore. And towards the end of the decade, we can get towards the larger plant designs that can really go into maritime decarbonization. We're already speaking with customers and project developers across Malaysia and different parts of Southeast Asia that are looking to develop these low carbon liquid fuels and methanol plants. That's a really nice kind of scale up plan to be able to deliver those larger decarbonization opportunities as well. And our team is really well suited, not just to develop this great technology, but also to deploy it, scale it, and bring it to market. Dr. Paul Matter, our CEO, has already developed a successful hydrogen company. They developed catalyst material now in use by Honda and Toyota. Our COO, Gary Robb, has already taken a hydrogen fuel cell company public. They were a fuel cell trucking company in the US. They had an initial valuation of $2.3 billion. He was the CTO and founder for them at that time of going public. And then David Bowe, a new hire on our team, he was hired by the North American leader in electrolyzers, Plug Power, to build up their electrolysis unit. So he took them from 0 megawatts sold to over 1 gigawatt sold and has sold multiple 100 megawatt plus units. So this team is experienced and capable on technology development, on bringing this technology to market, and helping investors exit and find value from these innovations. So thank you for having us. We're delivering green molecules without the premium.
Alex, thank you so much for that presentation. As Shirin mentioned, if you wouldn't mind just staying on stage for another 5 minutes or so while we invite some questions. And I understand that Cornell will pose the first question for Power to Hydrogen.
Hi, Alex. Thanks a lot. The first question I have is on scalability. Because you mentioned that as you scale the systems, you expect the performance to scale linearly. Mm-hmm. What are some other issues related to scalability, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of CapEx? How do you see that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's definitely different dynamics when you get to different scales. And I would say the purity is an important piece because the purity can be affected by some of the balance of plant of the system, the pipes and tubes and things like that. So we've been already on this scaling journey for other applications. So for this refueling station application that we're doing a commercial project in Belgium, so we had a 10 kilowatt system that needed about 5.9 purity rather than 7.9. So it's a little bit lower purity, but still very high purity. So we've been through this journey before. There will absolutely be different things that you need to think about on scaling and thermal management and the flows of gases. But we've done this, we've been down this pathway before, so we'll use our larger commercial 250 kilowatt stack. So I think we've solved some of these for the refueling station market that's also high pressure and high purity. So I think our team has gone down this pathway before, and I think we'll have good solutions, albeit they will be new ones because there's always things that are unexpected.
Got it. Thanks. And then just on the market, I mean, obviously hydrogen has seen ups and downs in terms of, especially in the US where you're from. I think, having Singapore as a beachhead market is obviously a great idea, but how do you see that beyond Singapore? There's some jurisdictions that are a bit more, offer more subsidies or support, but how do you spread across the globe, so to speak?
Yeah, it's a good question. So what we're seeing across Asia is a desire to import low carbon fuels. We don't see for that import it's going to be hydrogen. We really see a conversion to different liquid fuels like ammonia and methanol. So we're always looking for different partners and projects that can deliver those liquid fuels. So I would say where we see is we're in the US today. We have a sales and operations office in Europe, but I really think our manufacturing base will be in Asia at some point in time. We're probably not going to produce the lowest cost electrolyzers in the US at our facility. It's more of an R&D and prototyping facility. We have a few Japanese investors as well that are helping us start to get involved in the Asian market, but we really see it being a key market for us going forward.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you, Cornell. Halfway through our questions. Irene, I think you have some questions to ask.
Yeah, I do. So thanks so much for sharing about the pilots that you've had in Europe. And I was curious whether for these pilots that you've done, have you interacted with semiconductor companies there? Or is this move to Singapore to work with semiconductor companies the first time you're moving to this space? And then very quickly on that is, and we talked about this very quickly when we were connecting, the thing about Singapore is that we have limited access to low-cost, consistent renewable energy. Will that impact how you do your pilot here and how you plan to scale out of Singapore?
Yes. So we have not pursued the semiconductor industry yet. So our other pilots have mainly been on traditional chemicals and then also refueling station opportunities. So this would be the first entry into that market, a critical market for Singapore. The second question, and I know there's other questions come in, so I want to go faster with it, but was related to, can you remind me one more time, the second part of your question?
This thing about Singapore not having
Yes.
low-cost, consistent, renewable energy, how does that impact your plans for Singapore and scaling out of Singapore?
I think that's the benefit of this beachhead strategy. You know, if you're trying to produce $2 per kilogram in hydrogen in Singapore, that's probably not going to happen. And so that's why the opportunity for this higher willingness to pay for this premium high purity gas for semiconductor makes a lot of sense in this beachhead strategy. And then we see in the long term more, it will be imported these low carbon fuels into Singapore from areas that have lower cost electricity. You're thinking about captured CO2 and hydrogen like methanol that will probably come from other countries and be imported into some of the ports and terminals here.
And I was curious about the rest of Asia, and I think you tapped in on that as well. It's the first time that you're setting something up in Singapore. I'm curious as to why Singapore as your first port of entry versus any other jurisdiction within Asia.
40 seconds.
I think there's a lot of support here, and I think Singapore has shown an ability to move quickly on things that it prioritizes. We have, Japanese partners, but there's lots of different policy hurdles to go through, and I think Singapore has shown a willingness to move quickly and firmly into this market. So I think it's the right market for us to kind of develop these first projects.
Thank you.
I think it would be imprudent to ask for more questions with just 15 seconds left. Thank you so much for your time and for the questions that came.
Thank you, everyone.
Moving on to our next team now, and that is Endo Enterprises. Representing them today is their Global Business Development Manager, Dale Eddington. Their team has created a closed-loop hydronic additive for the built environment that reduces energy for cooling. Dale, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Dale Edgington, and we're here today to talk about EndoCool. As global temperatures rise, comfort cooling is no longer a luxury, it's a life-saving necessity. And that's why cooling currently accounts for about 10% of the global GHG emissions, and we're making it worse every year. In hot and humid climates like Singapore, cooling currently accounts for about 30% of the building's electrical consumption. So how do we cool the world without heating the planet? Energy efficiency within cooling is thus big business and a key opportunity for companies and countries to reduce their GHG emissions. And in buildings, we're seeing a key focus on individual pieces of equipment, but not the water that brings these cooling systems together. Introducing EndoCool, an award-winning energy-saving additive for chilled water systems. And this can include chillers, heat pumps, and district cooling systems. Dosed at 1%, EndoCool makes a number of changes to water's thermophysical properties to make HVAC systems more dynamic and thermally responsive. And this allows us to move thermal loads, the cold, around buildings more effectively, getting systems back to temperature quicker and driving higher delta Ts. Through this, we can show a reduction in run times and the ability to tightly match internal temperatures with set points by reducing temperature overshoots. EndoCool is independently proven to save up to 15% in HVAC consumption, and we're typically seeing savings around 5 to 8% in chiller efficiency. And this will not only help building operators with their spend and their GHG emissions, but help operators in Singapore with their Green Mark compliance and bring Singapore one step closer to their net zero targets by 2050. And we knew this category, chemicals, would get skepticism. So we built validation first, through our lab-based testing, through our academic research, and through our real-world pilots. Before EndoCool came Endotherm for heating systems, and we've now installed that product into 200,000 buildings worldwide. Most notably, a 4-year, 400-site independent pilot run by JLL and HSBC that saved 13% on gas consumption. Whilst EndoCool's only been on the marketplace for the last couple of years, the process remains the same, and we've run a number of independent pilots, as you can see here, in the UK, North America, and the Middle East. But it's not just the performance we've validated. EndoCool is less corrosive than water, and we have a number of boiler and chiller warranty approvals. EndoCool is 100% organic and non-hazardous, which means we have no discharge, storage, or handling restrictions. And EndoCool is thermally stable. It's a one-time dosage, a true fit and forget technology. And these are just some of the reasons that set EndoCool apart. But I would say our main differentiator is the fact that you don't have to differentiate. Because of our unique focus on the dynamic nature of water, the vast majority of millions of global systems remain untouched, and thus an opportunity for growth. We are seeing other chemicals entering the marketplace, and that's great for market acceptance. But we remain committed to be the market leader through our testing and our patent protection. Compared to some of these competitors, EndoCool has short ROIs, typically within 2 years, and this could be as low as 1 year in places like Singapore with the high cost of electricity. EndoCool is also 100% organic, which means it has a very low embodied carbon and very quick carbon paybacks, sometimes as low as 1 day. And EndoCool, dosed at 1%, has a very simple 1-day installation, no downtime, no disruption, and no continuous optimization requirements. We believe EndoCool ticks all the boxes to be a truly scalable technology. One proof of concept I want to share today is our first foray into the Asian marketplace. We were invited to pilot through the IFC World Bank Tech Emerge program, where we partnered with Sofitel Hotels in Mumbai. A 1-day installation, and independent MOV showed the following results. A 6.7% improvement in chiller efficiency, key reductions in evaporator approach and chiller runtimes, and a 15.8% electrical and energy savings. And that's an 18-month forecasted ROI, even with the low cost of electricity in India. And we hope to replicate this process in Singapore. Through TLC-supported pilots conducted in Singapore, we aim to demonstrate the effectiveness and commercial viability of energy-saving additives in tropical climates. With high costs, high demand, and a strong regulatory environment, we think Singapore is the ideal regional launchpad for the technology. and a gateway to about 120,000 chilled water systems in the region. And our pilots will follow our tried and trusted protocols. And that's independent M&V, key partnerships in flagship locations in different sectors, collaboration with key stakeholders, and that's like FMs, OEMs, and ESCOs, and exploring local grants and rebates. The scalability of EndoCool means that we can match the project to any funding received, and if we utilize existing metering and existing mechanical support, we can really maximize that investment. Through the pilot project, we aim to run 5 to 10 verified case studies in Singapore, not only to boost consumer confidence, not only in terms of performance and ROIs, but just how easy EndoCool is, how easy it is for these stakeholders to add EndoCool to their services. And this is a key part of our commercialization strategy, because many of these stakeholders operate regionally and some even worldwide. The $1 million prize from TLC is not just to fund a couple of pilots. It'll be a catalyst to bring next-generation cooling solutions to Singapore and the Southeast Asia region. And finally, I want to share who we are as Endo Enterprises. Founded in 2013 and based in the UK, we bring together experts in the world of business, academic research, and chemistry. And we provide best-in-class solutions in the world of infection control and energy efficiency. With me today, we have Dr. Andy Williams, who will introduce himself later, and yours truly. I've been working with the product for 13 years and seen the technology grow from one site to over 200,000 worldwide on the heating side, and on the cooling side, and no, we're just getting started. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dale, for your presentation. And if I could invite your Director of Strategy and Innovation, Dr. Andy Williams, on stage. We'll put 5 minutes on the clock and we'll move on to the Q&A session. Lilang, could I please invite you to pose the first question to the team?
Thank you very much. Very impressive presentation. Can you share about EndoCool's performance profile vis-a-vis your other emerging competition?
So I mentioned it a little bit in the slide. There's a couple of other chemicals emerging on the marketplace, things like nanotechnologies. There's also similar applications into refrigerant and oil fouling. So our mechanism is actually completely different to those other chemistries, and Andy's research, we do think that we've got improved performance and ROIs. There's other technologies emerging, and we actually really like that because it helps with the market acceptance. We just want to be the best, so to speak.
Can you share, this is a low-hanging fruit, can you share with us what's hindering you, or what are the barrier of entry for you to enter into the Southeast Asia market?
Yeah, I would say mainly, I say this in my presentations, and my boss always cringes when I say it, because I say, we are the personification of snake oil. How can this chemistry save 15%? Why hasn't everybody done it? It seems so simple. So often that is the major barrier, because people don't believe it. Why haven't they done it before? So it just takes time, and that's why we're really methodical in our approach with our testing, with our research, and with our case studies. And that's all needed just to get our foot in the door with a lot of organizations. And then it's all about doing the pilots and proving the success. And we just want to repeat that with new customers and in new regions.
I have my last question. Building operators in sensitive environment, for example, hospitals, they're always very sensitive about new substances in the HVAC system. Can you tell us more about that?
Okay, I can give you some experiences from in the UK hospital sector, where there's a lot of interest in how hazardous is it if there's a leak, for example. And I think that's the primary concern that comes back to us. And at the dose concentrations, because our product is changing the properties of water rather than just replacing the water, so it's in very small quantities, the EndoCool in the systems itself doesn't create any hazard. It's a non-hazardous product when it's diluted.
Thank you, Lilang. Michael, if I could invite you to ask some questions as well.
Thank you, and thanks for your presentation. So this 15% energy savings were mostly validated in Europe and the US, and I think you had this also one project in India. So what makes you confident that this will also work in very different environment in Singapore with high heat, high humidity year-round heating and cooling or cooling?
Okay, yeah. So when we delve into the fundamental behavior that's leading to this opportunity to save energy. It comes from the unsteadiness in the heating system. So unlike some other liquids that are trying to get into the market where they're just trying to increase the amount of heat transfer, ours is much more about that dynamic behavior. And that dynamic behavior comes from, in terms of HVAC, occupants in buildings, equipment, solar contributions, which are fluctuating all the time. So that unsteadiness is present across all of these markets.
Great. And beyond the pilot, you mentioned how you want to potentially, if you win this $1 million prize, you want to do this several pilots in Singapore. Can you talk a little bit about next steps? How do you plan ultimately to be in a meaningful number of buildings in Singapore?
Yeah, so we've already had a number of conversations with the ESCOs, who are probably the major drivers for energy efficiency in the region. In fact, Andrew had one this morning. We also will lean on our global partners. So we work with CBRE and JLL across the world. And we're actually starting to see that market flow into APAC as well. So it's about understanding who is the driver for these energy efficiency projects, who's the ones making the recommendations, and building up those relationships. And that happens around the world, but we also want to happen locally and use that kind of two-pronged approach to kind of build that confidence. And then after that, it's all about how easy it is to install. Of all the technologies that they're recommending, we're probably one of the easiest to actually implement. So that's one of our main unique selling points.
All right, thank you.
Emily, please.
Yeah, thanks very much for. And I like it very much that it complements existing systems, and so it seems so easy to use. Can I ask two very quick questions? The first is around. I mean, of course, the IPs I assume are all around the Endo product, right? The additive. Can you speak a little bit about the discovery of that material and what makes up Endo? The second is, what is your revenue model? Are you selling the additive, or are you providing services beyond that?
Yeah. Well, very quick on time. Do you want to do the first one?
Yeah, so in terms of the product itself, it came out of some projects, UK university, which was then adopted by...
I'm so sorry to cut you off, Dr. Andy, but that's all the time we have.
Come and speak to us after.
Thank you. Can look for Emily after. We'll now be moving on to our next finalist team, Yama. Representing them today is their founder and CEO, Aurelio Gonzalez. Their team has created an electrified carbon capture technology for dilute gas-fired streams. Aurelio, if I could get you on stage, we'll get the 5-second countdown timer on, and you may start right after.
Hi everyone, very happy to be here from France. Very lucky to present you Yama. It's an electrified carbon capture technology to make net zero gas power, half the cost than competitive technology, and easily plug and play to existing plants. We operate where legacy technology cannot operate because they are made for much higher concentration, and we open a market that has been left aside for now, which is gas. There is two constraints in gas: the very diluted stream, so less than 3%, and the fact that there is a variable load because their mission is to stabilize the grid. We need operational flexibility here. Our mine scrubbings that are made for coal are steam-bound and engendering a lot of energy spikes and oxygen consumption, meaning that they lose a lot of sorbent during their use. Cryogenic splits, they are used for cement, very concentrated streams, hard, rigid set points, and permeation membranes drops their efficiency with the pressure that goes down with gas application. That's our sweet spot. We scale the most advanced electrochemical platform. So what do is that we use electrons to split water to provide protons to the CO2 that is going to be attracted from the chemistry. And we do that with a battle-tested technology from the water industry called electrodialysis that we engineered for carbon during 3 years of research and development. We've been deploying and replacing the water with a proprietary sorbent, which is a blending, our own chemistry, non-toxic, fast kinetic to catch the CO2 flue gas, and then are using our next generation membranes that make sure to only pass CO2, 1 electrons per molecule of CO2. A flexible architecture, and all the three are with 3 families of patent. This technology has been proven at below 6% on the harshest condition in the air. In France, with this pilot of TRL7 that is running since 10 months at producing 99.9 pure CO2 ready to use or to sequester. For grid asset, we are a flexible asset for them to make them even more flexible. So we are on the back of the system here, and we provide, first thing, a stable electricity consumption as we are not depending on the steam itself, and with a non-toxic sorbent that does not oxidize, we don't replace it. We are very importantly using us as a buffer, a battery between our absorption and our desorption, which means that we can continue to capture CO2 while we are shutting down 90% of our electricity use on demand on the grid, which cuts down costs. We're a plug-and-play solution. It's a scale-out approach with modular stack used from the water industry, minimal footprint, and easy retrofitted because we use only electricity, no change on the plant itself. We're tackling a market of $1.6 trillion, which is the largest market in climate, CO2 credits, and green CO2, sorry. Two main drivers here, the regulation, Singapore tax as an example that I just raised, but ETS or 45Q, and the CO2, pure CO2 demand for existing market, ISAF, food, sorry, but also to decarbonize the market of aviation with ISAF. Singapore is 18 gigawatts installed power. Everything here, 95% of the electricity is powered by gas. That's the top #1 emission. So that's a strong and perfect launchpad for us to test the technology on the harsh tropical condition. Here's minimal footprint deployment in Southeast Asia and the world. We are not a burden as a carbon capture. We turn this into a profit center for Singapore. In Singapore, the system are used 75% of the time, 100% of the time, 75% of the load. A Yama solution, a thermal approach, would decrease 30% of the production of the electricity to run their system at a high cost. We don't do that. We can shift our load depending on the price of electricity, and we do let the turbine to produce always the same thing on the grid, while we can increase the load of the system. More load, more efficiency, less gas consumption. At the end of the day, we are able to cut the cost by $54 per ton for usage, high margin model when you sell it to the market, or storage, and it's going to be profitable from 2030 with the tax credit at $69 per ton. Going super quick on this case in the USA for hyperscalers behind the meter, we are on the grid. We can do curtailment and demand response, cutting the price down to $32 per ton with a negative premium for the people. We supply membrane, sorbent, and architecture to the utilities. We have 3 steps to get there. First one is about scaling up. It's this phase. We already proven our traction from our air pilot, 400,000 revenue last year from EQT and Klarna. We work now with EDF in France, and we are in discussion for the demonstration locally with Genco. And also for a first of a kind. A first of a kind would be capturing, be paid for that, sell the CO2 for $30 million per year, recurring for 10 years, and we would be ready to deploy it at industrial scale, get paid for every ton of CO2 that is captured with our technology on multiple sites, selling services and equipment for more than $100 million per year. We are a team of engineers, PhD, it's a mix of execution and science that we have. Myself, I'm a process and chemical engineer from Central Paris, 10 years in the hard-to-abate industry, working on point source capture for steel and cement. I met with my co-founder Valentin at school 10 years ago. He's been doing a PhD in point source capture chemistry, the mechanisms that we use, and applied it during 10 years into the biogas industry. Harry Macpherson, our CSO, is our electrochemist in the team, 10 years of using the electrodialysis system at Johnson Matthey in UK for exactly carbon capture. We are supported by great investors in the domain of climate worldwide and here as well. We are here to deploy our first demonstration. That's going to be the largest stacks of electrochemistry, ready after to scale out and to duplicate 2 years of run, the lowest energy cost on the market, and replicable for Singapore and Southeast Asia. We will split the budget between go-to-market locally, engineering locally, and 2 years of OPEX. And I'm at the moment raising for our Series A of 2.5 million for the CAPEX. I hope to see you in a few months in the Jurong Island with A-Star platform and our demonstration inauguration. Thank you.
Thank you, Aurélie. Thank you very much indeed. Let's give you an opportunity to answer some questions. We've got 5 minutes in which to do that. And the first question will come from Irene, please.
Thanks so much for the presentation. Is my microphone working? Yes. So thanks so much for the presentation. So you talked about how you provide the membrane, the sorbent, the architecture. I'm curious whether you have any evidence that these materials, the way that you use them, will operate the same way in our humidity and heat.
That's an extremely good question. That's why we should come here to do a demonstration before deploying locally. I think you have the answer, but in any case, we run our system at a bit higher temperature. It's a kind of pH and temperature swing up to 70 degrees. So we are already working with higher temperature. The humidity is a topic, of course, but it's in our good sense because normally you would evaporate water if you are in a dry environment. Exotic environments are much better for that, so that's for sure. But then you have to work with utility Genco to see how they operate every day, their turbines, how they do demand response with the grid, and this is what is important, is to work with them instead of just with suppliers of turbines. So the reason of coming here is to deploy after here.
But do you have any evidence?
Sorry,
my microphone is not working. Okay,
evidence, but we run our pilot on that system. When I said that we run at higher temperature and all of that, it's running since 10 months in Paris.
Okay, and that was your only pilot that you've demonstrated for the last 10 months?
Yes, with the 4.5 million we raised, that was the only one, but I hope we have much more in coming years. It's a scale up from the lab of 50 times scale up from the lab last year.
I see, that's a good start. So another question quickly, what is the fully loaded cost of your CO2 capture, including compression, transport, and storage?
Yes.
And how does that change with anticipation in Singapore or more Southeast Asian style conditions?
The case that I shown with $54 per ton is made with Genco's discussion, so it's based on gas price here and the way they operate, the 75% load, and the price of the Singaporean market. So this price is for the capture. You have to add on top of it the storage. Storage price is not defined today in the region, but if you can take offshore from Europe, it should be $30 to $40 per ton. So at the end of the day, that's why at $70 per ton, it should be a match, a profitable. So right now, for the first of a kind, we're going to sell the CO2 to make sure it's profitable already, because selling is a $200 per ton. How does that change country per country is a very good question, because as you have seen, the US case is much better because you can be plugged to the grid, get green electricity, get paid on curtailments. It's $32 per ton, so it's a bit less, and the storage is cheaper. So each case will be different. And we could go to Malaysia if we have renewable electricity and close storage as well. It could be even better. But here you have 95% of gas in your electricity, so we should start here.
Thank you.
Irene, thank you. 2 minutes left. Emily, would you like to ask some questions?
Thank you very much for the presentation. This is genuinely a problem in Singapore, and we are actively looking for carbon capture technologies to bring here. So this is very relevant for us right now. I have two main questions. Just can I confirm your French demonstrator was demonstrated on, is it direct air capture?
Yes, yes, yes.
And ambient air, is that right?
Yes.
So do you expect, how do you expect the performance now to differ?
Sure.
Going to point capture and industrial flue gas, especially with the contaminants and
sure.
particulates.
Extremely good question.
Yes.
First thing, for us, it's not a dilution problem; it's a concentration opportunity. So, of course, we will use less energy than our direct air capture, which is already cutting energy by 2 compared to legacy direct air capture using thermal approach. So that's one thing. The part which is important are the NOx. This is the gas stream which is the cleanest in the world, the gas, because you only have NOx. Nitrosamine. And we are making testing with EDF, so Electricity of France, the French utility, on synthetic gas on that exactly at the moment during 2 months, and have an external laboratory also to test some aging to make sure that it works. But for now, we have great results.
Yeah. So you get data from that, which you will then apply to the pilot that you're building here.
Sorry?
So you get data from the trial that you're doing with your French company?
Yes,
and then which you will
exactly. Yes.
Okay. The second is about the essentially what you're building in Singapore. I think that the pilot is a 20 times scale up.
Yes.
Yeah. So from the French demonstrator, how how do you expect, what do you expect the engineering risks to be?
20
Sure.
seconds.
Yeah. So this type of scale-up is normally done by the suppliers of the electrodialysis system. So this is the classical scale-up, larger membrane, more stacks. So we expect to have even less energy consumption. Of course, there are always engineering troubles, but it's a proven technology already. So we should be able to do it quite rapidly and easily.
Brilliantly done within the 20 seconds allocated. That's our 5 minutes up. Aurélie, thank you very much. Judges, thank you for your questions. We move on to our next team. That's Meta 8, and representing them today is their CEO, Zhaotan Xiao. Their team has created a methanol-to-power technology for 24/7 baseload generation with 60% efficiency and integrated CO2 capture. Zhaotan, the time is all yours.
Hello everyone, very pleased to present Meta 8. We can deliver decarbonized power that is cost competitive with Singapore's LNG-based power, number one. Number two, ours is the lowest cost CO2 capture system that we know of. And number three, this whole platform is built around a liquid feedstock that is easy to transport and handle. So the demand for power has exploded due to AI and electrification. The good news is renewable energy costs have plummeted, but a lot of it is stranded in locations that's far away from demand. Lots of people have been trying to transport this renewable energy in the form of green hydrogen, but we all know that hydrogen gas is very hard, very challenging to transport, right? So our solution is to combine the green hydrogen with CO2 to make methanol. This is the simplest liquid carbon fuel and a very mature technology. Once it is in the liquid form, it is easy for us to ship using existing infrastructure to locations of demand, like in Singapore. But the key is not to burn it. The moment you burn things, you have to deal with the NOx, the SOx, and the SUT. Instead, our solution, our approach is to crack that methanol back into CO2 and hydrogen. The hydrogen is used to make electricity, and that CO2, let's send it back to where we have green hydrogen production to make methanol again. This loop has been patented by Meta 8 and represents the 8 in our name. All right, again, today we are burning fuel to produce electricity, and most of that CO2 is released, right? When people try to capture the CO2, it's usually post-combustion at the exhaust, which is expensive because you need to do scrubbing and concentration. Our approach is completely different. Number one, we do not burn. We are producing electricity electrochemically via fuel cells, and the only byproduct is water. Number two, we're capturing the CO2 pre-combustion. This whole setup is simpler, cleaner, and cheaper. Our product is a proprietary ARM system that produces pure hydrogen for power generation because that CO2 is immediately captured by potassium carbonate that we've added into the methanol. The resulting bicarbonate is then cycled out into another pot where we open the soda can and 100% pure CO2 comes out, right? The whole system is very efficient because it is purely driven by the waste heat from the fuel cell. We're talking about around 60% efficiency, which is comparable to LNG CCGT or 2 times that of diesel gensets. But now this is 100% decarbonized because we spend around $13 a ton to liquefy the CO2 so that we can move it around. This is literally the lowest cost CO2 capture system that we know of. If methanol to power efficiency is at 60%, what it really means is we have found a way to make synthetic renewable fuels cost competitive with LNG CCGT. And LNG CCGT constitutes 95% of Singapore's power at a fuel cost of around 7 to 8 cents per kilowatt hour. And then you need to go through the grid. And the grid is very expensive. And that's why in Singapore, electricity prices is closer to 20 cents. That same natural gas can be turned into methanol But now you can bring it to your doorstep, bypassing the grid, deliver electricity direct to you at 10 cents per kilowatt hour. A diesel genset can also bypass the grid, but it is at 30% efficiency. Ours is at 60, and that's why we're still the lowest cost. For green methanol, there are two types. The first is biomethanol. All this biomass waste in Southeast Asia should be turned into biomethanol for logistical reasons. And it is great from an energy security point of view. It is already commercially viable, right? And of course, wherever you have excess renewables, we would like to send you our CO2 to make e-methanol. The SOFC capex is a bit high today, but even at today's prices, we think we can achieve less than 5-year payback in Singapore. The US DOE thinks that SOFCs will reach price parity with fossil power plant cost by 2030. Ours is a no-regrets investment because we give you full control and flexibility in terms of your feedstock choices, gray or green, and CO2 handling. None of our competitors are working with a pre-power generation CO2 capture. And we are working very, very closely with the oil industry to engineer this, right? Tapping on their engineering capabilities to design and build our system. This is a great way for the oil industry to get involved in electrification, which otherwise they are missing out. And we think they will play a critical role in propelling adoption for our system. We're very proud to announce our MOU with Keppel Data Centers to deliver decarbonized power to their next generation AI data centers. And we're working with one of the oil majors in our region to specifically around microgrid EV charging for remote locations and along highways. We're working with some of the world's best to continue developing our product. And our business model will evolve over time, starting with outsourcing hardware manufacturing for speed and scale, and then into certifications for traceability. And eventually, we need to become a turnkey solution provider, selling clean electricity and dealing with all the logistics for our clients. If we win, the money will go towards building a 10 kilowatt module at ISC squared, the learnings from which will go into the design of a commercial unit deliverable in 2029. We will have huge impact because adoption has no fuel cost barriers. And we have a great team led by Mr. Lee Keng Nam, founder of Vertex, on the technical side by Gerard Denazel, who was the head of R&D for Aramco. Please join us as we move into the age of electrochemistry, beyond fossil, beyond combustion, and seize the opportunity to...
And seize the opportunity. Thank you, Zhao Dan, for your presentation. Judges, if I could just ask you to move the microphones a little bit closer to yourselves, and then we'll make sure that the audio is louder as well. Could we please invite the project director of Meta 8, Norman Lee, to join Zhao Dan on stage for the Q&A? And then Cornell, if I could invite you to pose the first question to them.
Hi, Zhao Dan, Norman. Thanks a lot. Great presentation. My first question is around basically the infrastructure or the value chain that you need existing to deploy your solutions at scale. So, you mentioned manufacturers. Obviously, there's methanol infrastructure, SOFC availability, CO2 handling, right? All of that is not sort of in place yet at scale. How are you going to go around getting that?
Excellent question. So the energy transition needs to be an incremental transition. It needs to be an affordable transition. We should start with existing assets, existing infrastructure, and so we propose to start with gray methanol. There's lots of gray methanol in the region. Obviously, if it's gray, that CO2 needs to be stored. So what we propose to do in the initial phase is to turn it into cement. We've had conversations with people like Pan United. Let's mineralize this CO2. That's the initial volumes, and then over time, our job is to convince all the big players that this is commercially viable. If we can capture CO2 at $15 a ton, we should be able to deliver it to your doorstep at $50 a ton, which is competitive with gasification of biomass, and everyone should invest in this. This is a no-brainer. This is great for energy security.
Thanks. And just on the markets, because you mentioned a few use cases, what's sort of your primary well, what's your beachhead market and what's your sort of ultimately largest opportunity?
Yeah, we're picking very closely the initial targets, and these are all 0 to 1, where it's very obvious once we have the 1, it goes to 1,000, right? So AI data centers, that's one. EV charging, I think that's another key case. And Norman, you want to talk about industrial?
In the industry, there are a lot of people who are looking for decarbonization, so to reduce their Scope 2 emissions to 0. And these are imported electricity from the grid. So when we put our modules in plants, for example, on Jurong Island, they are able to get decarbonized power, and immediately they go to 0 Scope 2 emissions. That's number one. Number two is a lot of these customers are also looking for decarbonized hydrogen supply. So our module is able to, if you take out the SOFC, our module is also able to provide decarbonized hydrogen. So this is industry use cases.
Got it. Thank you.
Michael, if I could invite you to pose the next question.
Thank you, and thanks for the presentation. So I think you had to speed up through the last slides, so I'm curious about your demo system. What would success look like? What will you measure, and when will we know that it went well?
So we're working with ISE Squared because we are interested in the kinetics, the reaction kinetics of their catalyst specifically, right? So they have a great catalyst platform, and we're developing that. Once we understand that, it's very easy for us to plug into Norman's simulation models, which are gold standard tools used in the oil industry to complete the process flow and ensure that we can synchronize the processes. This module will then be easy for us to scale up to megawatts and above. Would you like to add anything?
So in terms of the catalyst activity that A-Star is going to help us with, they will be helping us to develop the catalysts in terms of nickel, platinum contents, and so on. And this will help us to basically optimize the size of the reactors and so on. And this is very critical for us in terms of being able to minimize the footprint of our module, which is obviously important to our potential clients.
We have time for one more quick question.
All right, I will just do a quick one on the team. So you have some impressive backgrounds in the team, Shell, Aramco, Vertex. Who is full-time already, and what's sort of the transition to full-time for people who might not be?
Yeah, 3 of us are full-time. Gerard is currently based in Germany. He's also CTO for Inaratech, which is Europe's champion for e-fuels. And that is completely synergistic with what we're doing, right? So the intention is to build a team in Singapore, and you know, the team will grow. Have this pilot as and the Keppel first commercial module as the anchor for us to grow around. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to Cao Dan and Norman, and to our judges for their questions. Thank you once again. And now we'll be moving on to our next team, Space Cool. Representing them in their pitch is their CEO, Masahiro Sumitsu. Their team uses a passive radiative cooling that cuts energy use and reduces urban heat island effects. We'll get the 5-second timer started, and Masahiro, over to you.
Hello everyone, I'm pleasure to be here. And I'm Masa, CEO of Space Cool. Cities are getting hotter, especially in the fast-growing city like Singapore, as building increase and green spot disappears. We can cool inside the buildings, but not the city itself. Air conditioning cools indoors, but releases heat back to outside. So my question is, can we cool the city itself without making this problem worse? Our solution is very simple. This film can apply to the rooftop and facades all over the world. And this film reduces its temperature even in direct sunlight without any energy. You may feel why. The answer is by throwing heat into outer space. So we call this film's name as Spacecool. And this is not the laboratory level. Now we deploy to the all over the world. It's the real world happen. And I believe this film is their future infrastructure for cooling. Mechanism. This film reflects most of the sunlight, and in the same time emit the heat to outer space by thermal radiation. That means the far infrared light. So goes out energy is larger than the input power from the sunlight. So it cools. Very simple. We start from the building. It is already happening. In the first time, we reduce the energy consumption of the building. But this is only our start point. We now want to go to the city level cooling. That means this film can reduce the urban heat itself. And ultimately, we can go to earth scale cooling. That is why we scale. And compared to the conventional materials such as the reflective paint and reflective film, our material is actually cool. That means below the ambient temperature. This is a total difference from the existing materials. And compared to the other radiative cooling material, that means their competitors, Spacecool is easy to deploy because we choose the partner-led model. And that means we integrate into the existing material that have existing way to install to the customer's assets. So we can go to the market with familiar way, with affordable cost. And second point is high durability. Our material has over 15-year durability. This is uncommon with our competitors, while our target ROI is 3 years, very short term. And one of these materials have their 10-year warranty. And now, compared to we are only 5-year startup company, but we now have the 10-year warranty. And Spacecool is future-proof. We do not contain for regulated materials and has their lower carbon footprint. That is why Spacecool is chosen. We now deploy the big scale. So, for example, the lightweight, the building like tent, we realized that 40% energy consumption is reduced by our material. And to install the rooftop of the reinforced concrete building, we measured 10% reduction in summer. And one building in Abu Dhabi do not have the air conditioning system. And we succeed to increase the playable hour for tennis about 50%. So we go to market now with their partners, not alone. We choose their partner-led model. So we collaborate with their manufacturing partner who has the existing way to install. And we also collaborate with the commercial partners. So we leverage their existing materials and existing value chain. And we choose the fibrous production. So I think it is a good, it is a fast path to profitability. And we believe there are massive market over $100 billion. And more importantly, we now scale. So we realized a 200% CAGR since founding, that is 2021. And in next 3 years, we estimate a 5-time growth. That is realized by the partner-led model. With TLC, we will demonstrate the city-scale cooling. And we want to work with the building owners and local constructors and deployment partners and universities for validation. And we will deploy Spacecool across the pilot site in low-rise industrial and logistic facilities where their retrofit led their immediate impact in such a market. And we will validate we will quantify the cooling impact in tropical conditions and validate ROI at building. And I think Singapore is a very important market for us because there are massive demands for cooling and sustainability. And more importantly, Singapore is a gateway to the Southeast Asia. So we want to demonstrate the building and city-scale cooling impact here. And I think this project will enable us to secure commercial contracts in Singapore and expand across Southeast Asia from here. And beyond the project, the Singapore will be a very important market for us to deploy there all over the world. We develop this material with our special team, and today Yuto will support Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Masahiro-san. We'd like to ask your colleague Yuto Kijima, head of Asia Market, to join Masahiro on stage to help in answering some of the questions. The first of which, please, will be supplied by Li Lang.
Thank you very much for your presentation. In a very dense urban environment like Singapore, how much of the heat radiated to outer space is reabsorbed by the adjacent structure?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Singapore is a high humidity, so it is bad for radiative cooling. But we estimate our material can reduce temperature about 1 or 2 degrees Celsius. Compared to the existing materials such as the reflective paint, the temperature rise about 10 degrees Celsius over the ambient temperature, so it is a very big difference.
And also, we already did a lot of pilot and a lot of business in Thailand and Vietnam in the tropical weather conditions. And we succeeded to reduce the temperature and the energy consumption as well.
Can you say again about the high humidity? Are there any quantified performance data that can show in terms of high humidity environment like Singapore versus, for example, in Japan? What is the performance difference?
Yeah, so in Singapore, their atmospheric layer is thicker than Japan because it's near the equator. And so their Singapore and Japan is also the high humidity area, but their Singapore is bad than the Japan. But I think the Singapore, the result is very important to expand the Southeast Asia.
Thank you, Li Lang. Emily, you have an opportunity.
I have a number of questions. Thank you. Can you hear me? Thanks very much for the interesting presentation. Also, the first is around, you had a slide on your patent portfolio. You have about 40 patents now, and you're making 20 patents every year, new patents every year. So which part of the product is your sort of most protected and proprietary? And the new filings, so in which areas are you also continually trying to improve your product? I think this is great, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we publish the patent, not only the basic, but also the application. And we choose the open and close strategy. So the application patent, we allow everyone who use their space cool for free. But we strictly save their basically patents. And we now write 20 per year.
But for the 40 patents, so it's around is it mostly around your materials that's
mostly
been
around the
protected
material,
now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay, great, thank you. So the second question I have is about your, I mean, in a sense, this is not new, and you're not competing with just sort of similar films, right? You're also competing with other roof insulation, cooling paints, coolant paints, that sort of thing. So your competitors is actually much larger than sort of similar niche segment products like yours. So how do you, what is really the sort of differentiating factor in terms of performance? Is it yeah?
So you are asking about the how we can realize the performance itself?
No, what is your very key differentiating performance differential? Because you're not just competing against films, you're also competing against, say, coolant paints, rooftop insulants, so in a sense, your competitor range is a lot larger. What would convince your customers to adopt you instead of another insulant product, but not specifically a film?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as we explained, we are doing the platform business. So we combine our technology in the existing, building material itself. So actually, for the customers, they don't have to invest space go, additional installation cost. So the additional investment must be minimized comparing to the other reflective paints or other radiative cooling material because they need to apply over the existing retrofit material. But so our customer is need to choose the space goal from one option A, B, C, and just doing the same installation method.
So it's the most easy to use and adopt, essentially. Yeah. That's your key selling point.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Great, thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That leaves us with 15 seconds, which I think everybody will agree is too little time to ask and answer a question. So let's close it there. Thanks very much indeed to Lilang.
Thank you.
And Emily, and indeed the two gentlemen from Space Cool. We'll move on to our next team, and that is Up Catalyst. Representing them today, their head of development, Dr. Apostolos Sekos. Their team utilizes flue gas to produce battery-grade carbon materials at lower cost than conventional methods. We have 7 minutes on the clock, and it's all yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm very happy to be here to introduce you our technology, which turns flue gas emissions into a revenue stream. Let's start from the top. A quarter of global CO2 emissions come from transportation. And how we decarbonize transportation today is by electrification. This is already happening at scale in markets like Singapore, and it's backed by strong policies and large investment funds in decarbonization. When we talk about electrification, we are really talking about lithium-ion batteries. And although lithium is in the name, the biggest component in terms of mass is actually graphite. So 70 kilos of graphite for a single electric vehicle. This is a massive market opportunity, especially thinking that it's expected to reach 50 billion in the next few years. However, we electrify transportation using one of the dirtiest materials in the supply chain. Graphite requires 100% fossil feedstock and high temperature treatment in order to become battery grade. And on top of that, 95% of its supply chain is controlled by a single country, raising questions in terms of supply chain security. And it's not just the governments. Major OEMs around the globe, they're demanding sustainable raw materials for their processes. However, there is no sustainable graphite right now. And this is where our solution comes into play. What we do differently at Up Catalyst is we make graphite for batteries, but we made it with CO2 feedstock instead of fossil. And we do it at lower temperatures. Our technology is protected by strong IP, and it already has won numerous prestigious international awards. But what is it exactly that we do? In our reactors, we take the CO2 molecule and we split it into carbon and oxygen. Carbon deposits on our cathode, as you can see on the video. We scrape it off, let it cool down, and then wash it off and prepare it for final application. And actually, by tweaking the parameters, we can either have graphite or carbon nanotubes. Both of these materials are used in electric vehicle batteries, consumer electronics, or advanced applications. So why is our solution so powerful? 3 things. First of all, our materials are carbon negative because we lock carbon dioxide into our materials that we then utilize. On top of that, we deliver high-performance materials to the battery supply chain. And thirdly, we actually make decarbonization economically viable because we actually turn carbon tax into revenue compared to just CO2 storage, which is cost without value. How that happens? To begin with, we need 1/3 of the cost for feedstock. We operate at much lower temperatures, which means lower energy. And because of that, we also have higher yields through the equipment for the same depreciation timelines. So everything together, approximately 20% lower cost of goods through our process. We have already proven our technology using pure CO2 as feedstock. But what we want to do next is something much more powerful than this. We want to skip the intermediate, costly carbon capturing and purification step, so that we go directly from flue gas into battery-grade materials without compromising quality and performance. And we want to bring this technology here in Asia to decarbonize the transportation sector, the battery sector here in Asia. How do we go about it? We want to do it through Singapore, by partnering up with A-Star and collaborating with Enterprise Singapore and Temasek Foundation. We want to build here an R&D and business development hub to develop this exact technology, and around it, a business network for that. In the meantime, in Estonia, where we already have the team, infrastructure, and know-how, we want to scale it up to reach a point which at pilot scale can produce 2 tons of graphite while turning 50,000 cubic meters of flue gas per year. And then, of course, through Singapore again, validate the technology and the materials through battery cell manufacturers here in Asia. And of course, that's where it starts. We are already partnered up with SGC from Korea for scaling up. And we already plan to have a pilot infrastructure by 2028 in Asia. And 3 years later, same region, the first-of-a-kind factory. And of course, they're scaling up furthermore by licensing and modular deployment. This is the business case around it. We turn flue gases into sustainable raw materials for battery manufacturers, and we are competitive because of sustainability, low cost, high performance, and supply chain security. How we know we can do it? We have already previous experience. We have a pilot scale facility in Estonia. We already have funding. We are planning to build our factory in Finland, for which we already have approved tax credit and a very good amount for that. And most importantly, we have validated our material with European OEMs. And our business model is scalable by design. We cater to the European market and US market through Estonia and Finland, and we decarbonize Asia through Singapore and Korea. We have the technology, we have the plans, we have the business, we also have the team behind it. Our team members come from a wide range of backgrounds, starting from the automotive industry, battery manufacturing, carbon nanomaterials, clean tech, and financing. So I think we have a very good mixture for what we want to do. Now, what we're looking for is more partners to get on board. So if you're around here today, maybe an investor looking to invest in decarbonization, or a potential strategic or joint development partner, please feel free to contact me after this one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Apostolos. We'll move on to the Q&A segment. If I could invite Irene to pose the first question.
So thank you very much for your presentation. I was intrigued that you had A-Star, and then you mentioned ESG, then you said Temasek all in the same breath. That's 3 out of 5 judges. You're a very clever man. So I'm curious about your pilot, what you want to do in Singapore. You mentioned that you want to go from flue gas directly without CO2 purification. Did I get that right?
Exactly.
So I was curious, with your current system, you have it running already and you have plans to scale elsewhere in Europe. Can you share how sensitive is your system to variations in this incoming flue gas, to the actual gas composition as well as to SOx and NOx?
Absolutely. So that's a very good question. First of all, I would like to let you know that these partnerships already came to be before we knew we were presenting, so it's not really planned 100%. In terms of your question, it is sensitive in terms of how we operate it. So what I mean by this, going from pure CO2 to flue gas, concentration of CO2 is much, much lower, so we have to modify the parameters of the process. This we have already done. So we have initial data. What we want to do now is actually develop the technology. In terms of the poisoning of the systems, it is something that we need to consider, and that's why we want to develop the technology. But when it comes to poisoning and dealing with corrosive environment, our process is such a weird thing, and the materials of construction that we had to work with and the conditions, it's something that we've already been dealing with for the past 5 years. So we're not strangers to these kind of challenges.
And maybe one follow-on question about cost. You talk about cost reductions and really impressive numbers, I think 20% and above. I'm just curious, a lot of times we meet startups or companies and there's a lot of assumptions that go into these numbers. I wanted you to share with us, for these savings that you're suggesting here, how many of them are already validated through your pilot versus just assumptions that you haven't demonstrated at pilot scale?
Very good question and very insightful. So, of course, the assumptions, the majority of it is at scale. And this takes into consideration not only the feedstock, but also the energy and the heat losses at the same time. What we have validated is the outputs at pilot scale, and also what are the heat losses that we have today at pilot scale. What is not taken into consideration in terms of, well, actually it is, but it has not been proven yet, but we do know it from aluminum industry, is how the system is actually self-heated during electrolysis at higher scales. So you don't need external heating as you operate the reactor if it's big enough, so the resistive heating is actually self-maintaining the process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Michael, passing the time over to you.
Thank you. I just have one question, actually. You know, the battery world, it seems to me it's moving really fast. I constantly hear about new materials, new chemistries. Is there a risk that the batteries will move away from graphite anytime soon? And do you have a plan for that?
That's an amazing question. Actually, before coming here last week, I was in Shenzhen, in the biggest battery fair in the world, and you hear lots of things about battery chemistries. What I can tell you is LFP is here to stay as long as China is the dominant player. So this is going to be always graphite for the time being. This is my forecast and my personal opinion. When it comes to sodium-ion batteries, which is a different chemistry, it is here. Different application, so it's not mutually exclusive in that sense. So yes, but just to answer your second part of the question, instead of graphite for the battery industry, our technology turns CO2 into graphite and carbon nanotubes. Their applications are reach far beyond just battery applications.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We have a minute left if we have any other quick questions from the judges. If not, we will end the Q&A session. Thank you, Dr. Apostolos. Thank you to our judges for your questions. And we'll move on to our next team, FluVault. Representing them today is their founder and director, Philip Jones. Their team has created a low-cost, low-purity industrial CO2 capture and storage with critical metal recovery. Can we get the 5 seconds on the clock? Philip, stage is yours.
Thank you, and good afternoon. My name is Philip Jones, and this is my colleague, Dr. Nathan Woolworth. We are founders of FluVault. We are an on-site, low-cost CO2 capture and storage solution. The world has a problem today. There's 60 gigatons of CO2 emitted annually. If we break that down into Singapore, that's 60 million tons a year from Singapore alone. A large chunk of that is from hard-to-abate sectors. That's sectors that can't be electrified, or economically also can't use e-fuel alternatives. CCS is required. Carbon capture and storage is required, but it is expensive. And we know that the global economy cannot absorb this cost. Why is it expensive? It's expensive because it's a multi-phase process. You also have to transport CO2, often across transboundaries. We solve that. We solve it by being on-site CO2 capture and storage in one process, therefore reducing the cost by half. So what does our process look like? Our process has 3 inputs. It has flue gas, it has the mineral olivine, and it has seawater. That's it. 3 inputs. It goes into our reactor. Under atmospheric pressure and atmospheric temperature, so low energy, it converts the CO2 to bicarbonate. It goes through a metal extraction unit and takes out chromium and nickel. We can sell these metals. They are important for the energy transition. And then the seawater flows back out. We are a flow-through seawater reactor. The science. This is proven at scale, as my co-founder always likes to say. This is how the world regulates its climate. For millennia, alkaline rocks have been weathering and converting CO2 into bicarbonate. Let's put it into scale. If we were to convert all of human-made CO2 ever emitted and turn it into bicarbonate, that's less than 5% of the total bicarbonate pool of seawater. The storage capacity is massive. Now, the next question you should all be asking is, if we are actually disposing this seawater, what does this mean for the environment? Well, this has been designed in partnership with the environment. There are no toxic elements and foreign elements going into the sea. It is regulated under point source discharge. And to make the point even clearer, just this weekend, the New Scientist published the results of a study that was started by my co-founder, Dr. Nathan Woolworth, concluding there is no harm to marine life with bicarbonate generation through this method. Now, how have we managed to make all these bold claims? This has been over 5 years of R&D, led and spearheaded by Dr. Nathan Woolworth. And we have managed to confirm that we can use low purity CO2 and 99% CO2. We don't need high pressure or high temperature. This is what the TLC funding will go towards. This is our first pilot. This is a barge-mounted system that we estimate to cost about $2.5 million. And we'll be using our own generation system, and it's about 100,000 tons per annum. This is what we're going to be building here in Singapore with on-site MRV and real-time monitoring. Now, we have a number of key milestones that we have to hit under this program and a number of KPIs that we have to confirm and improve. But we're not going to be doing that alone. We have a strong partnerships here in Singapore with NTU on the environmental side and the MRV side, and with our colleagues at IC Squared on the engineering side. So, what is the market size? We've heard a lot about this today. In 2025, $100 billion was spent on carbon taxes and regulation costs. We need to bring that down. How do we bring it down? We maximize existing infrastructure. Let's look at power plants. If we were to tap into and integrate our system into their existing pumped water cooling systems, theoretically, we could capture about 13 gigatons of CO2 using existing infrastructure. Let's look at Singapore. There's a lot of discharge water in Singapore. If we use that, we could theoretically do 54 million tons of CO2 a year. That's all of Singapore's CO2 emissions. Now, let's come to the cost. This is the bit that gets me excited as a commodities trader for 20 years. We have two revenue streams. We have metals, we have CCS as a service. We are currently pricing this with a very low metals price, and we're not using existing water infrastructure. But if metal prices go back to where they were just 6 years ago, that's nickel and chromium, and we tap into existing infrastructure, theoretically, the CCS could be a byproduct. It could be free. This becomes a metals play. That makes it a hedged investment and very exciting. This has been validated, what we're doing, by industry heavyweights. We're partnered with the world's largest olefin supplier. In terms of the OEM, judges know who our partner is, but I can't tell you in public here. We've partnered with one of the world's largest OEM companies, and it's the same. We've partnered with one of the world's largest energy companies. They like what we're doing, and they see advantage in it. Now, we're going to hit a number of sustainability goals. And we believe that in the next 10 years, we can hit 50 million tons a year impact through the production of metals, electric cars, and the CCS as a service. We're not delivering it alone. We have a fantastic team. We have myself and Nathan. We have industry heavyweights from the oil and gas sector, CCS experts. We have our partners here in Singapore. We have the Dean of Science at NTU, an ex-Cambridge University, and an ex-chairman and CEO of a large shipping company. Together, we are going to be delivering this to bring down the cost of CCS so that economies and industry can actually afford it. And you and everyone in the room doesn't have to keep getting their bills going up for the energy transition. So, this is nature's solution, but it's industry's answer. And we're doing it at a scale and price that works. Thank you.
Well done, Philip, right down to the last second. You introduced Nathan to us earlier on. Welcome, Nathan, to come and help answer some questions. The first of which, please, will be put to you by Li Lung.
Thank you very much. Your geochemical process you are applying is natural and well understood. But what is the specific scientific or engineering breakthrough that makes your application novel and difficult for your competitors to replicate?
So it's a simple process that helps it really scale well. And the actual IP that's generated inside of the reactor is that there will be a certain parameter space where CO2 mixing of the water and, for example, the grain size and the composition of the minerals are all going to be IP. So there's going to be a way to contact it that's actually not obvious. The other way is when you flow the seawater down into the reactor and then into the metal train, it's going to be a certain collection of subsystems that will actually do the extraction in an energy efficient way. And so that's what we have patented under our patent applications right now.
Your economics depend on access to existing seawater cooling infrastructure at power plants and data centers. How receptive have these operators been in terms of what contractual and operational barriers have you encountered?
Yeah, so let me just clarify that. Our economics are not dependent on that. At $78 a ton, that's us building everything from fresh. They really improve when we integrate our systems. So the feedback that we have got so far is let's use a system or an infrastructure that currently has no value for these power plants. They are literally pumping out old cooling water from the data centers, from the power plants, the desalination plants, and the wastewater treatment plants. So our system is also barge mounted. That is an intentional design, so we have a mobile capital asset that can come in and plug into that. We can also go on land, but the whole idea is the integration will be as simple and as uninterruptive as possible to the existing operations of the facility.
Cornell, I think you have some questions.
Hi, Phil, Nathan. So I think the science is quite well understood and documented, and the cost that you showed is obviously quite attractive versus competitive solutions. So what are the biggest hurdles to widespread adoption, and how do you plan to address them?
Yeah, so look, the technology is proven. I mean, the wastewater treatment plants, they exist, desalination, they all exist. So we know the science works at scale. So what we're going to have to work on as we scale is the contacting, maintaining the contacting efficiency and the kinetics of the reaction. That's the first one. And the second one, we have to address it. If you are disposing seawater with a product that most people in this room probably haven't even heard of, there is a social element to it. And we have to address that. And actually one of the scopes of work that we're working with NTU is to do the social acceptance studies to really go deeper into how to address that. Now, Dr. Nathan led a lot of this work in the US and led a lot of these studies that looked at the social perception element of it, because it's not an environmental thing. Environmentally, it's fine, but there is a perception issue, and that's what we have to work on collaboratively with everyone in this room as well.
Thanks. And then could you also comment on the availability and variability of olivine, and how does that impact both the capture capacity and the metals that you're planning to extract?
Yeah,
and across the regions.
Yeah, okay. So the olivine market today is small. It's about 10 million tons a year. It's small because it's currently being used in blast furnaces and water treatment, etc., and glass. That demand is going down. So if you look at the amount of available proven reserves in existing mines, it's about 34 gigatons. Okay, so supply is not an issue. It's just there hasn't been demand. So we're not worried about supply. If you talk regionally, Europe is blessed. Europe is our go-to market, high willingness to pay, a lot of olivine deposits. America actually doesn't have a lot of olivine at all. It's the one thing they're probably not blessed with. So really for us, Europe and Asia is key. Indonesia locally is fantastic. It's not called olivine in Indonesia. It's kind of a byproduct of nickel mining. It sits under the nickel reserves. So, we need to tap into that as well as a solution. So the quality-wise, yes, there will be changes of magnesium content, nickel content, but there is a range, and that's where we're going to work on the economics, sourcing, and blending.
Also, really briefly, the benefits of the reactors is they take any alkaline minerals, so limestone, things like that. So we can do blends. Olivine is just a great mineral, but there are a lot of regional alkaline mineral sources just all over the world.
Down to the final 4 seconds. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for answering those questions. Well done. My thanks also to Li Lang and Cornell for asking. We'll move on to our final presentation of the day, and that's from Macrocycle Technologies. Representing them here is their co-founder and CEO, Stuart Pena. They've created a textile-to-textile polyester recycling technology with lower energy usage, CO2 emissions, and water usage. You've got 7 minutes, Stuart. It's all yours.
Today, over 99% of all the textiles that are globally produced will eventually end up in our landfills, in our oceans, or be incinerated. And in Singapore, this is a growing concern, as the very limited landfill space available is being filled with more and more textile waste every single year, as the fastest growing share of all the waste ending up in this landfill. And there are now technologies today to address this problem. A linear economy that is growing to $3 trillion in size, impacting our health, polluting our environment. Something that I've seen firsthand in my own lifetime, as the once pristine beaches that I used to play as a kid in the Dominican Republic are now riddled with trash and waste, washing upon our shores wave after wave. That is why I am so excited today to introduce to you all Macrotex, Macrocycle solution to this $1 trillion market. A fully circular, low-cost textile-to-textile solution that can produce a virgin-grade drop-in product from lower-value textile waste that can be produced at price parity and with as low as 0 carbon emissions. Why is this so exciting? Well, let me explain to you what is happening today in the industry. If a brand wants to source recycled polyester today, they need to source it from mechanical recycling using packaging waste. Why? Because the garments that we wear today are too complex, and that leaves disposal as the main economical viable pathway at the end of the life of the material. The technologies that have been developed to address this challenge, advanced recycling, are then too energy intensive. They rely on breaking the polymers and the bonds of the polymer down to the building blocks and undergo all the traditional petrochemical steps to arrive back to the original polymer. This is quite energy intensive, and it means that the brands will have to pay a green premium to adopt these materials, inhibiting its adoption. Macrocycle is able to resolve both of these challenges thanks to our innovative approach. Instead of breaking bonds, we make new ones. Through our patented Solvogenesis platform, we're able to retain all the energy that went into making the original polymer. And we're able to bypass the petrochemical industry entirely thanks to the intermediates of cyclic molecules called macrocycles. This allows us to produce a high-quality product at a fraction of the cost to be able to provide it to the brands at price parity. So, how does our process actually work? Macrocycle can take polyester-containing textile waste of any quality, like the blazer that I'm wearing right now. And whether it's multi-fiber, multicolor, or multi-material, we're able to use a system of solvents and proprietary conditions to be able to extract the non-polyester materials out of the blends, like cotton and elastane, and valorize them through separate partners. And the polyester, we're able to decolorize it and increase its chemical property through our chemistry to produce the macro pellets, the solution that the industry has been looking for, as you can make yarn and garments out of 100% post-consumer textile waste. And we're able to do this at price parity with the petrochemical industry thanks to the fact that we're feedstock resilient, using 80% lower energy, and can use cheap, non-toxic circular solvents to achieve this, even as we achieve twice the industry margins. And equally as important, we're able to reduce the carbon intensity by an equal amount of 80%, and the remaining 20% can then be fully electrified with renewable energy to achieve recycling with as low as 0 carbon emissions from a Scope 1 perspective. Now, it's time to scale this technology up. In the 2 years that we have been operating our technology, we've been able to take it from lab scale to industrial demo scale, a 1500x jump thanks to our unfair advantage. We are a chemistry innovation, not an equipment innovation. What it means is that we can leverage the existing infrastructure to scale up our technology, produce more product, and de-risk the scale-up of this technology without having to put steel on the ground. This is allowing us to move quickly as we bypass the need to build a demo plan and start capturing value as we resolve our customer pain points. Pain points represented by the fact that we've already generated over $300,000 in revenue, LOIs offtakes representing over 200% capacity of our first commercial plant, MOUs and JDAs with top 10 global fashion companies, and we're currently about to sign our first multi-million-dollar offtake agreement for this commercial facility. A facility that is going to be around 5,000 tons in capacity, generating up to $10 million in revenue, which can even be constructed here locally in Singapore. This will be the foundation as we then scale up globally to build bigger, more plants across the world and license our technology. And Singapore can be the very first step to that journey. The reason I am here is because we would like to propose a capsule garment project. With the potential winnings from this prize, Macrocycle wants to partner with local textile collectors to be able to take the waste, and in collaboration with A-Star, leverage the analytical capabilities to understand the waste locally, on top of a potential additional licensing of technology and infrastructure, for then Macrocycle to upcycle this material into the macro pellets. From here, we're then going to be collaborating with the Singapore Fashion Council, the reason why Singapore is the best place to start with this. As all the leaders and owners of the manufacturers of garments are headquartered here, we can partner with them to produce the garments that can be provided locally for retail through brands like Sabrina Go. We've already had exploratory conversation with all these brands, and we're excited to use the winnings potentially to cover the operational expenses and no capital required. My name is Stuart Peña Feliz, and I used to be an engineer at ExxonMobil's first recycling facility in Texas, as well as developing petrochemical projects at Jurong Island. My co-founder and innovator of the technology, Dr. John George Rosenboom, is a phenomenal genius that I had the pleasure of meeting at MIT. And since then, we've been able to onboard a powerhouse of a team and a set of investors that have been through this journey many times before, giving us the confidence we have what it takes to get this venture off the ground, including those from the largest polyester textile producers in the world, Indorama Ventures. But we are still going to need more help. If you can help us, whether connecting us with suppliers of waste, manufacturers of garments, or potential brands or financiers interested in our future financing opportunities in Macrocycle, let's connect. Because together, I truly do believe that we can make sure that the choices that we wear today are the resources of tomorrow and not the pollution of the past. Let's create a cleaner, more circular future for everyone today.
Thank you, Stuart. Okay, great. Emily, if I could get you to pose the first question.
So before the first question, just wanted to let you know that the judges have been handed two spools, one made out of virgin and one made out of recycle. And at the end of the Q&A, I would like to ask you which one is which, and we'll play the game.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stuart. Great presentation. So my first question is around the technology. So as you well know, there are various pathways, and one of which is already commercially scaled and proven. But there are also more emerging pathways, for example, the enzymatic approach of PET recycling. So what is your thinking around the technology that you're betting, that makes you bet on this pathway? And you mentioned the carbon intensity as one area, one advantage. Are there other advantages?
Yes.
And in particular, I'm concerned about the output. Does it give the same kind of quality that the other methods give?
Perfect timing. You can feel our product and tell me which one is which. So I will say that compared to enzymatic approach, actually one of our business advisors is Emmanuel, the ex-CEO of Carbios, the largest publicly traded enzymatic recycler in the world. And what we have learned, especially talking to him, is that enzymatic recycling, other chemical recycling technologies, are too energy dependent because they have to go back to the monomers and repolymerize everything. That is quite energy intensive, and you will never be able to outcompete oil when you're trying to produce monomers out of waste. It is quite expensive. So the main advantage that we have is because we're able to purify the polymer and increase its property without depolymerizing, we're able to be 80% more energy efficient. Yep. On top of that, we can use more contaminated feedstock. Enzymatic recycling requires crown milling, and it has to be very clean. We can take really contaminated feedstocks, as we've proven it, with a lot of different types of waste, cotton, expanded zippers, buttons, cotton, you name it. And this allows us to be able to source cheaper feedstock. And then lastly, we don't use any water in our process. So we've been able to demonstrate that we can have 99% reduction in water usage to produce the polyester material.
Yeah, so cost is your key competitive advantage.
That is correct.
Yeah,
The way I like to phrase it is that we will reach price parity at the lowest capital investment. We do not need to build 250,000 tons per year, $1 billion projects. We can do it at 50,000 tons per year with $150 million of capital investments.
Thanks very much. So my second question is around your engagement of Singapore retailers and the Singapore Fashion Council, our TAC. What has been the feedback from them about integrating this technology into their value chain? Is this something that they've already started on? Is there a mindset shift that's needed, or are they already at the point where they are able to take in new technologies?
Yes, great question. It comes down to two factors based on all the conversations we've had with all the different members of the Singapore Fashion Council. That is price is number one, and then quality number two. What they've communicated is that even if it's not a price parity today, as long as it's a very clear pathway that once you're at scale, it is a price parity, they're willing to entertain and start adopting the solutions. So price is very key, but then it's quality. If they have to change and adapt their process, that makes it really difficult for them to be able to adopt the solutions. If you're able to overcome both of this challenge, everyone is really excited about the value proposition, and you can even think about it from a capture value perspective, the marketing, the branding, and that push, if you don't have to make a sacrifice on your margins.
Yeah, so actually you got it down to the key points I think that would really sell with the Singapore retailers. So third question is around the scaling up. You are looking at a 50, what was it?
We have about 1.5 minutes left.
50-liter reactor to a 750-liter reactor in a year. And that 750-liter reactor is to be built here?
The 750-liter reactor currently is being contract manufactured in the US, more specifically New York. But one of the things we're starting to look is for local players that can help us do contract manufacturing. So we're backed by the Lohia family that own Indorama Ventures. Right. They're out of Thailand. And we're currently in conversations with them to see if we can take advantage of that ecosystem here in Southeast Asia. And we're also potentially starting conversations to see what's available at Jurong Island.
Yeah, so this is very rapid scaling from my perspective. And what do you see are the risks with this?
Yeah, the biggest thing is making sure that the chemistry works throughout the entire process. So far, we've been able to successfully do it from 5 to 50 to 750. But what we've learned is that engineering becomes a little bit easier because we're being less scrappy. The vessels at larger scales are properly designed for even mixing and so on. The biggest challenge will be the solid liquid handling component of it to make sure that we're able to remove all the impurities, filter, and so on.
Great, thank you. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
30 seconds left for your game, Stuart, if you want to...
Well, I was going to say, raise your hand if you believe the spool label A was the recycle one. Can't tell? Well, I guess that answers your point. The answer is actually B. But with that, I wanted to say thank you, everyone, for your time. Macrocycle is here to truly create a circular economy, and we look forward to receiving your support.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Emily, for your questions. And that brings us to the end of our pitch segment. Please give another round of applause to our finalist teams for their wonderful presentations. And thank you, teams, for all your hard work and your insightful pitches. To our judges, thank you so much for your hard-hitting questions. Judges, I would now like to invite you to adjourn to the VIP room for your deliberations. And as the judges start making their way there, audience, I'd like to invite you to participate in our popular vote poll. So please let us know who you think should be the winner or who your favorite team was today. So if everyone can take a second to scan the QR code. We'll also be taking a short 10-minute bio break, so we'll see you all back in the room for the rest of the program in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be resuming very, very shortly. Do make your way back into the auditorium and take your seats where you're comfortable. We'll be starting soon.
Testing.
Ladies and gentlemen, do please take your seats then. We have a panel discussion to inform and entertain you. My goodness, they're cheering over there. Do take your seats, please, as quickly as you can, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you had a good chance to chat with your fellow audience members on who your favorite teams are. We're moving into our TLC Innovation Dialogue for this afternoon, entitled From Breakthrough to Buy-in, Unlocking Adoption for Climate Solutions. Our panel today, Gayatri Natarajan, co-founder and CEO, Crosslinker. Stéphane Chiasson, Director, Finance and Corporate Development, Endo Energy. Jane Zhang, Head of Southeast Asia and Singapore, Fellows, Breakthrough Energy. And a representative from UNEP, who our moderator, Jessica Chum, founder and CEO of EcoBusiness, will no doubt be happy to introduce us to. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your chairs and enjoy the next few minutes.
Thank you very much, Steve. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If I could just get everyone to sort of settle in your seats. I know it's been a very exciting afternoon, and honestly, I'm not biased, but this is my favorite event of Ecosperity, and it's really where the action is happening. And I've always, sort of been really proud that we've launched this platform from 9 years ago, and each year it grows from strength to strength. And I think when you think about the spirit of Ecosperity Week, all the ambition and all the policy conversations and also the business insights you get, TLC here really is where the action happens and where capital allocation and deal making is happening in real time in front of you. And I think you would agree with me that the solutions that we saw being pitched to us earlier in this afternoon were really, top notch. And I think the judges are going to have quite a hard time deciding who's going to win all the prizes. But I think that this is an opportune time for us to have a real conversation as well on the state of climate tech innovation here in the region as well as globally. And I think that, we've heard from Johan Rockstrom at the Ecosperity opening dinner about how we're approaching the end of the stable Holocene period. And while the science is really staring us in the face of how we are tremendously destabilizing our planet, as we have also sought to demonstrate in our opening video, I think in an era of fragile geopolitics and prolonged conflicts, it is hard to keep our eye really on that ambition and that implementation. And so I think in that context, we want to have a conversation here today with my very esteemed panel. And I know Martin couldn't join us in the end as he had a flight that he had to catch at the last minute, but we have Hong Peng Lei, who is the Chief of the Mitigation Branch at Climate Change Division at the United Nations Environment Programme, who is going to be speaking on this panel. And so I think, what we want to try and do here today, this afternoon, is to tackle questions around how do we actually address the obstacles to unlock greater investment and deployment in climate tech. I'm going to just dive right in, Hong Peng, to start with you. As at the United Nations, you obviously have such a bird's eye view of what governments are doing. But at UNEP-FI specifically, you also work with private financial institutions around the world. And I know that your expertise is specifically on climate change mitigation. So with the macroeconomic environment today being extremely complicated, with wars ongoing and an energy crisis, what are you seeing around the region with regards to energy transition, and where do you think are some of the specific bottlenecks and opportunities?
Thank you very much, Jessica, and thank you so much for the introduction. I'm looks not very similar with my boss, Martin. And yes, my director, Martin, sent his apology because of the flight. It's been rescheduled. As Jessica introduced, I'm the mitigation branch chief in the climate division at UNEP. My great pleasure to be here. Firstly, I want to say, so far I'm being so impressed by the energy, the passion here, in terms of people are coming here not talking about climate change and the green transition. People are talking about where are the actions, how to make the action happen among business, among financiers, among government, and also, of course, our civil society, including philanthropies. It's really exciting. I have to congratulate all our partners who've been part of this effort. This is wonderful. When we talk about the overall, context we are facing, and very often now, people are talking about the geopolitical landscape. People worry about, is that something big barrier for the climate transition, etc. I want to, start by saying, let's look at the nuance, what's happening. So last year, for example, we had over $3.3 trillion investment in the energy sector, and I think it's around 2.2 trillion out of the 3.3 trillion actually is flowing into clean energy technologies, including renewable, battery, EV, grid storage, efficiency, etc. And the Bloomberg New Energy Finance had this key indicator to measure the progress. Actually, last year, all the 4 indicators they are using, all actually moving upward. So what I try to say is, it's not a transition in retreat. So that's not the picture. So what we are facing now actually is a very good structural momentum. We can really leverage further. And the problem we are facing now is okay, we have a lot of investment on the green technologies, but there are still roughly $1.2 trillion annually to the fossil fuel sector. Okay, so UNEP, we as a global environmental authority, Paris Agreement obviously is our North Star. The transition inconsistent with Paris Agreement, obviously requiring us to use the green investment to replace the brown, not about adding the green. So therefore, we need obviously much more to do. So just one, in terms of the geopolitical environment we are facing, a few things I want to say. Our executive director, Inga Anderson, rightly put recently, the environmental toll of this war we are facing in Middle East is immediate and severe. And for Asia Pacific specifically, the current conflict carries very direct exposure that deserves very honest acknowledgement. In 2025, almost 90% of the total gas volumes exported via the Strait of Hormuz were actually destined for Asian markets. And countries like Bangladesh, Pakistan, India imported almost 2/3 of their LNG through the strait, making them really vulnerable. So we are not talking about very abstract things about the geopolitical risk. It's something very concrete, supply and the price vulnerability. Now, like sitting in the risk framework of many of us sitting in this room. So we have to work together to build the resilience and funding the alternative power sources. Resilience means we cannot only focus on supply, we also need to think about the whole energy system, including the flexibility from the demand side, how we address all the resilience together. Just very quickly, what are the bottlenecks? I think the first one is really the disparity between advanced economy and the emerging economy about the cost of capital. Financing cost in the emerging economy sometimes could be 7 times higher than in the advanced markets. So this is not just a geopolitical problem. It is a structural problem in terms of how the sovereign and the project risk is priced. And obviously it requires a sustained coordinated effort across multilateral banks, national governments, and of course private sector. The second bottleneck is really the grid infrastructure. Okay, we've been investing a lot on supply again, but how to move the electricity, how to store it, how to integrate it to the existing system. The grid is a bottleneck almost every country are facing, including in the advanced economy. The last really is about the policy uncertainties. Okay, we need to give the certainty to all the investors and the business leaders. Okay, I think in conclusion, I think that the risk we are talking about in terms of geopolitical fragmentation is slowing the transition just in some markets, some economy. Okay, what we need to do is not to say that as a rule. It's just some exception. We need to work together to ensure these slowdowns are the exception, and overall we all can work together to make this transition unstoppable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hongping, for starting us off with some, macro insights there. I think it's super interesting how the current geopolitical situation is impacting us. I want to turn to Jane. And Jane, I recently hosted a podcast with you, and you talked about how the state of climate tech investing has, gone through quite a volatile period due to the geopolitics. And climate tech deployment, or rather the financing deployment, was at a high maybe 2 years ago. And now, even though it's at a healthy level, it's still very selective, and it's actually still below what we saw 2 years ago. And from Breakthrough Energy's perspective, I mean, you guys work really right at the heart of the deep tech that's coming out and bringing that to market. What are sort of the challenges and opportunities you are seeing? And on the topic of this discussion on adoption, do you think that the speed of adoption of these deep tech solutions in Asia are keeping up with our demands?
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. First of all, really, really great to be here, and totally agree with you. I feel the energy of the room, and very exciting to hear all this very high quality, presentations from very passionate founders and startups, especially seeing the actions and the real solutions being discussed in the room. Great questions. Geopolitics, that's almost the topic in every room nowadays. Certainly for technologies is no exception. But I want to say geopolitics and is affecting all investment outlooks, not just climate tech. That's basically the truth. Across Asia and the global, investors in the technology space are prioritizing technologies that strengthening domestic energy security, manufacturing independence, and also critical resources, critical mineral assets. That's what we're seeing. Climate and clean energy innovation, especially the transforming the energy systems, are no longer viewed as solely sustainable solution. I think it's they are increasingly treated as strategic industrial assets by many countries. This is tied to the national security, supply chain, resilience, and the economic competitiveness. So you cannot separate sustainability and the national agenda. A lot of time, that's what, which could be the opportunity for structural change. That's what you mentioned. There's a risk, there's a lot of uncertainty, but because this change and could happen. Another thing is, I don't know if you have heard about, I think it's probably well-known, called energy trilemma, that has been framed as sustainability, affordability, and energy security. So the idea is you cannot have all. You have to trade off. You have to pick one. For example, if you pick affordability, you cannot. It's not going to be sustainable, or the other way around. And the clean energy will cost more. But I believe more and more we see examples, the breakthrough in innovations is actually going to unlock that energy trilemma. I think I can mention one example, and we all know the clean energy, renewable electricity plus storage is increasingly becoming more affordable and sustainable. At the same time, is also can be produced locally, domestically, and it's strengthening national energy independence. For many countries where there's no or very limited resources, I mean the hydrocarbon resources, they had to rely on import LNG, but nowadays renewable energy could strengthening the national energy security of many countries. So that's a great example. This is where I say energy trilemma can be unlocked by innovation, by clean energy. As for came to affordability, I also believe for all of us working in the clean energy, climate tech space, we need to change a mindset. That is, the clean energy or sustainability solution is always cost more. That's the mindset we need to change. That's actually linking to adoption. Because if we're talking about adoption, so we're talking about market adoption. And so this is where that narrative is very important. First of all, we need to really, how do I frame? Frame is not, I sometimes I don't like the word frame, but it's talking about the technology solutions that we're working on has the right fundamentals. And it's both, I mean, this is with technological differentiation, but also has right competitive unit economics at the same time and has a scalable market potential. So those are the things, if I think people in the room, you're working on the technology, really thinking about those 3 points, this is a starting point for adoption. I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Jane, for the practitioner view. And, you know, it just reminded me, I was just talking to the head of Asia for UNDP this morning, and we discussed how there is still, today, $7 trillion of subsidies that's given to the fossil fuel industry. And you mentioned renewables plus storage being like the bright story, of this region here, ironically also boosted by the war that we're seeing in the Middle East. But imagine how the economics of these technologies would be so much more favorable if we didn't have those subsidies. But I mean, to that point, I think, the conversation that we have here today and also with TLC is really how do we help the founders and the innovators, bridge this valley of death where, you have really high capex and OPEX costs and you are not reaching the market yet, but we need that patient capital. So on that note, coming to, our innovators, Stefan and Gairati, you were the winners from TLC 2025. Just wanted to, ask you, how has the last year been for you since winning, the top prize, the $1 million grant, as well as, the ecosystem support? I know that's not, that's only the beginning of your journey, but tell us how that journey has been. Stefan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And like many of you will appreciate, that journey has always been a roller coaster and will never stop being a roller coaster, but that's part of the fun, I guess, in doing it. Just for a little bit of context, we are a company that's developed a technology that enables hydrogen to be transported as a room temperature, room pressure liquid. And so effectively, we are an energy, transportation, and storage technology. And our win last year was catalytic in a lot of ways. Obviously, the capital was very helpful for us. It enabled us to scale our technology up 50 times from where it was when we won the award. And we're now deploying pilot systems in California and Hawaii this year. But perhaps more importantly than the capital was the credibility it gave to us to open doors that we probably realistically shouldn't have been in. And that opened up a massive amount of opportunity for us, not only here in Singapore, but across Asia. And as part of that, we've been able to bring on new investment, but also partners to deploy the technology. It's almost been a blessing and a curse, because in some ways, I would say the credibility has almost gone too high, to the extent that we're getting asked.
Too much expectations?
Yeah, it's, this is great, we love what you do. Can you do 10 tons per day? And we're at 20 kilograms. So we're trying to manage that expectation, because in order for a startup to be successful, it's not just about the technology, it's timing too. And we're trying to catch a wave. So we need to manage the expectations and bring people along the journey with us. And that's been an interesting outcome, I guess, from this, as well as making sure that you're prepared to manage those conversations.
I'm curious though, has the changing geopolitics in the last year, which has been extremely volatile, impacted your success rate in terms of funding, deployment, getting corporate adopters?
Yeah, it's definitely changed the nature of the conversation quite a bit. As we've been hearing, energy security has become paramount, and this is really opening a lot of doors for us. I will say one thing that's compelling about our technology is it's not just electrons, it's also molecules, and it's important to be able to supply electrons, but we need to be able to supply molecules to regions that don't have as much accessibility to grid infrastructure. And so there's a security element there as well that has come into question, particularly on how do we get fuels to remote locations or with equipment that's moving, for example. And so we continue to see the applications grow.
Really interesting. Guthrie, I come to you. How has the last year been for you, and where are you at your journey now?
Thanks. Last year has been roller coaster for us as well. Lot of progress has been made. TLC definitely has given a lot of credibility and visibility. There are people that I have tried to reach like multiple times in the past, could not have reached, but then they may email me now to ask like, can I come and see you in your office now? Like, these are really, really big names. So it has definitely opened applications which we haven't even thought about before. And we have diversified in terms of not just applications, but in terms of geography, and it has been a very good year. So we have multiple pilots running across like different applications, the most demanding ones starting from the data centers that need to cool down to mass adoption, HDB applications. So it's been very good. So what surprises me, I mean, so many surprises that I don't even find surprising me anymore, is that dealing with heat, with all the data that we have, all the interventions that we know who are the most vulnerable population, we know everything, but it's still seen as more like a comfort issue, not as an infrastructure issue, despite the fact that it has the maximum impact on the grid, maximum impact on worker productivity, maximum stress on the infrastructure, transportation, healthcare, schools, everywhere. It's still seen as like a summer surprise, right? Like we think about it when March comes, and then it's not a seasonal issue. The other framing that I see, which also surprises me, is that it's seen as an insurance issue. Who pays for the damage? But the question that we should be asking all the time is, what should we do now to prevent that damage? So with, for example, like fire and flood, right? The damage is like immediately visible with insurance. People are willing to pay. But the heat problem is financially invisible. So yeah, that has been something that's challenging and creating a lot of market awareness. And people sometimes actually confuse market awareness with a heat action plan. I mean, building more air conditioner and cooling units when the temperature reaches 40 degrees Celsius is not a solution. It's the last resort. I mean, we have been also trying to educate multiple stakeholders, not just the customers who will be paying us. At least in our case, the people who are most vulnerable, who experience, are not the people that's making the buying decision. The buying decisions for our cooling paints or any of our aerogel insulation technology are made by either the government institutions or commercial real estate developers or people who are running the facilities. So there is always a gap between the people who are actual beneficiaries and the people who are paying for the solution. So.
Yeah, that's a good point, because the people bearing the brunt of climate change are often in emerging markets, developing markets, where, Hong Peng, you've said the cost of capital is 7 times more expensive. So where you need the solution most, the adoption is most expensive as well. And perhaps this is a good question to ask all of you. We have governments, corporates, investors, all saying they want climate solutions. The whole of Ecosperity Week, I think, has been consensus building towards that. Yet we see the adoption of tech lags, and nature solutions too. But who has the most leverage to unlock it right now, in your perspective? Okay, you go first.
So governments by design are designed to operate slow, and investors follow trends, right? To me, if there is somebody that can unlock immediately, then it's the corporates. So for example, like when Walmart, said that they have to actually label their carbon footprint from all the suppliers, overnight the entire FMCG changed. So if they can bring that kind of climate solution into their procurement channel, then that's like the best moment for climate that can happen. Yeah, so I'm still waiting for the Walmart moment for dealing with heat.
Interesting. Jane, any perspectives there? You work with many corporates too, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of time, you were saying, so what is the one thing has the most leverage? Maybe it's not the institution or not player, but what I see is a lot of time we say there's a lack of capital, and especially for early stage where there's a valley of death. I want to look at this in 2 things. One is the capital stack for climate and clean energy tech, especially in different regions in Asia, it's look different compared from the capital stack in the US and in Europe. That's one thing. And secondly, capitals are there. The capitals are there. We just heard. Just how to unlock those capitals, channeling them to the right impactful technology. That's, if we can figure out that, require multiple players, and that will be the biggest lever.
Basically a TLC in every country, Lilang. So we can do more matchmaking of capital to solutions. But Hong Peng, what is your perspective? You work with many financial institutions, right? So is this the...
Yes, firstly, I want to say, very often people always want to have a simple, easy answer, huh? But in the reality, mostly it's not the case. Okay, I would argue, yes, some leverage might be more powerful now, or maybe another one later. But overall, we need to build a whole ecosystem to make things happen. Okay, say two things. From UNEP, I mean, everything we do, we start from science and data. Okay, we have to follow, common understanding about where we are, what we need to do, in which sector, in what cost, in what condition, etc. And I mean, many colleagues might have heard, the emission gap report, adaptive gap report, UNEP producing every year. The second thing is really the policy framework, the policy signal. Now, actually, around 40% of globally, the green technology already cheaper than the fossil fuel alternatives. But we also, again, as we said, we need a comprehensive policy framework there to make this happen. And how to translate all this, science policy to real, deployment of green technologies. I just want to say a few words here about UNEP FI. We organized financial institutions, both banks and also insurance companies, to work together to address this challenge. And one thing is like we call principles for responsible banking. And another one is principles for sustainable insurance. So together we have over 500 banks and insurers all working together. I think this is we have some early wins. Let me give two specific examples. Over 350 signatories banks across over 85 countries. The PRB provides the structure, the framework through which banks align their strategies, portfolio, and the client relationships with the climate and sustainability goals. What particularly important here is the evidence, what a PRB member actually produces. There's one independent analysis by MSCI Institute found that 61% of PRB signatories lead their industry in managing financially mature sustainability risks and also pay roughly 1 percentage point less on average for equity and debt capital. So the market is eroding this. The PI side, we have like near 300 organizations in near 70 countries. So the insurers are not passive participants in the climate tech ecosystem. They are the risk underwriters who determine whether new technology, new products, or new market insurable and in what cost. So just give these two examples. So another gap we are facing is out of this 1.9 trillion global climate finance flows in 2023. Unfortunately, only like 200 billion happens in the emerging economies. So what we need to do actually is really to work together with all the banks, insurance, to really fill the gap in terms of supporting all the emerging economies to achieve the transition. So anyway, so sorry, a little bit late, long, but my answer would be we need a whole ecosystem to achieve this fundamental transition. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Stefan, would you like to add some perspectives?
Yeah, I mean, I look at a lot of climate technology, especially in the early stages, sort of a little microcosm of project finance. And in project finance, the idea is to try to assign the risks to who's best to absorb them, right? And so I look at this as again, multi-party solution that involves corporates and governments and EPCs, for example, helping building like balance of plant to de-risk some of those scale-up activities as well. But I would encourage folks to think a little bit outside the box. So we do have a lot of capital available. What would be great to see is other initiatives like helping to guarantee feedstock, for example, or helping to guarantee the offtake so that the corporates can take more risk. Because at the end of the day, the best form of funding and the best signal for a company is revenue. So let's get the risks assigned to who can best solve them, and let's get revenue into companies so that they can scale.
Super well said. I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to take one burning question from the audience as I wrap up the panel. Is there one question that you want to pose to the panel? Okay, we have a very shy audience. I mean, they just want to know who's winning the $1 million, really. So we're standing in between that and the judges. I've noticed that they've come into the room. So, fascinating conversation. And I'm just going to wrap up this conversation, with sort of like a thought, right? TLC is going to be celebrating its 10-year anniversary next year. And when we started in 2018, there was really not quite a platform like that. And it's so encouraging to see that we've seen so many more proliferate. And we're seeing more capital being allocated to innovative solutions. But if there's that one thing that you want to see action-wise or implementation-wise, by the time we convene for the 10-year anniversary, what would that be? You can go first.
So now if you look at the government procurement channels in any country, they want low risk, low cost, completely proven solution. That's exactly opposite of what climate tech startups are currently doing. So if there is a mandate that a small percentage of the public procurement has to deploy solutions that are less than 5 years old, then that will create the first line of customers for all the startups. And the first line of customers are the scarcest thing in climate tech. And that no amount of grant equity money can beat that. So that's one change that I would like to see immediately, not in 10 years' time.
Well said. I mean, it comes back to the topic of our discussion, which is adoption. How can we drive adoption with speed and with scale? Stefan.
Yeah, I think a lot of the industry is moving in a good direction where solutions are coming to the table with their starting point of being the levelized cost of my solution is actually competitive with the incumbent solution, right? But there are structural problems in a lot of industries. And for example, in our industry, in hydrogen, a lot of the supply agreements are 5-year, 7-year agreements. And so it's hard to break into those even when you have a levelized cost that's competitive or better. And so I'd love to see some catalyzing opportunities to help companies get their foot in the door when there's structural challenges that are not economics based.
Well said. Jane?
Right, I think, and I may want to make this a little simple. For TLC 10 years anniversary, maybe we can think about really bring another very important category of stakeholders in the room, co-create business case for adopting clean energy climate technology. That player is corporate.
Yes.
Bring the industry corporate in the room, co-create the business case, adopting the high impact, and also has to be economically viable and scalable. Yeah. So co-create the business case.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And actually, I think we do have quite a few industry culprits here in the room. I won't single you out, but we would love to get many more on board for sure.
Yeah, more.
Okay, last word.
I think we need obviously more actions with passion, with energy. So science is very clear, and I think the resources also there, demand also clearly there. I think we need more sessions like we had just now, to have all the entrepreneurs, have all the wonderful judges, to enable all the fantastic ideas, entrepreneurs to prevail. So that's a way to think out of the box, to action out of the traditional way, innovation. That's the way we can really drive the change. Thank you.
Thank you, Hong Ping. And I think I come back to the energy in the room, helping to aid the energy transition, and TLC really being the capital allocation platform and the deal-making platform. And I hope to see all of you back here, next year for our 10-year anniversary. But for today, we have exciting results that are lined up. So please join me to thank my speakers for a really interesting discussion, and we look forward to the next segment. Thank you.
Yeah, Jessica, thank you to you and your guests. I wonder if you could all just stay on stage, because I think it would be nice to have a photograph. I know a photographer took photographs while you were all sitting down, but perhaps you could all stand at the front of the stage and then we could have a nice commemorative photograph just to allow us all to remember this moment as we head towards that 10-year anniversary 12 months from now. Wonderful. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, very much indeed. And we are approaching that moment that everybody's been waiting for. And our judges have all come back under the cover of darkness. They have made their decision. I understand it didn't take a very long time. I'm sure it was a complex process, but they were all back in good time. Those of you joining us virtually, remotely, you can continue sharing your thoughts in our comments section as we move towards this concluding final moment of our segment here. And after the pitches that we've heard today, I'm sure all of you, as well as our judges, have some thoughts and some feedback for our teams who will take to the stage now. So let us invite all of our finalists, the representatives from our finalist teams, back onto stage for what we're calling a feedback segment. So there'll be feedback given by representatives from our judges. Up you come. You've all been on stage before. And it's been all same order. That would be lovely. Yes, thank you. And once you're all, oh, look at them all in file. Very nice indeed. Well done, everybody. First of all, then, we'd like to invite Michael to give us a summary of the judges' feedback for the first 4 teams who presented today. And in order for those 4 teams to be in the spotlight as they receive their feedback, could you take one step forward, those first 4 teams? Just those first 4 teams. And Michael, hopefully you've got some feedback for this group. So it was the first 4 presenters step forward, and the last 4 remained at the back of the stage. Well done, everybody. We sorted that out. Michael, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks of all. First of all, thanks everyone on the stage for presenting. It was great to hear your pitches. So I have, I will start with power to hydrogen. What stood out for me, it was the commercial traction that you have already built. And I think this semiconductor partnership in Singapore is really a strong signal. One area I would suggest to expand on is this progression of the Singapore plan. Semiconductor is obviously a strong beachhead, but Singapore hydrogen spans many industries, maritime, refineries, chemical, what's the plan, how this technology could fit with other industries would strengthen the impact story. Thanks for the pitch. All right, moving on to Endo Enterprises. I think your product, it's amazing that your product is already on the market, independently validated energy savings of 15%, meaningful number in HVAC. And the install being just drop in, that's a strong part. For Singapore, of course, cooling is the biggest energy load, and other tropical cities is the same story. So, this translates into real numbers. One area I'd love to see more on is the carbon impact at scale. So if this 15% savings were rolled out across meaningful share of Singapore commercial buildings, what does it actually mean for CO2 avoided? Just to narrow down those numbers. Yeah, but thank you for the pitch. Yama. What I really liked is how much you've already proven with this pilot in France and 1,500 hours of continuous operation with 0 failures, really impressive. And also the pipeline of partnerships in Singapore was really impressive. So that was on a strong side. One area I would flag to improve is the scale-up jump itself. You know, like I think we discussed in questions, going from 20 tons of CO2 to this 365 tons is a real step up. So like hearing more about how you de-risk that, how do you plan to execute this would help to sort of improve the pitch further. Yeah, thank you. And last one from me would be Meta 8. What I really liked is how naturally your system captures CO2, you know, at very low cost. It's almost like a byproduct of generating power. And the team you've put together, really strong team, serious industrial depth to the team. I think the sort of the biggest challenge is that your full climate benefit really kicks in when green methanol is widely available, but this market is very early. So I think framing this and explaining this clearly, how this transition may happen, would help as well. Yeah, thank you.
Michael, thank you very much indeed for that feedback. I'm sure it was constructively taken on board. Cornel, can I just ask, are you going to deal with the teams one by one as well?
Most certainly, yeah.
Okay, in that case, let's do as these very smart people did and just step forward as your team is addressed by Cornel. Cornel, thank you.
Space cool. Great job doing the presentation. As far as what we like about your solution, it is easily deployable. It's a pretty simple solution. Not much hassle as far as from the consumer perspective. There were some questions from the judging panel around how does your solution work in dense urban environments with a lot of rooftop solar, such as Singapore. So maybe getting a bit more comfort around that would help. Thanks. App Catalyst. So I think what's great about what you're doing is you're plugging into one of the most developed sectors within climate tech, right? And I think it's a really big opportunity. So definitely like that. The one thing we maybe would have liked to see a bit more is to highlight the relevance for Singapore. Thank you. Fluvolt. So very energetic delivery. Good job. We definitely like how sort of applicable the solution is in many sort of regions, as well as the cost of capture ultimately, coupled with the metals revenue. I think what we would want to get a bit more comfort on is the environmental impact. I know you addressed it, but just maybe a bit more, and then also MRV, which I think you mentioned as well in your presentation, but probably would have wanted to see more on that. Thank you. And then Macrocycle, again, very energetic delivery, also very colorful, like your jacket. And then, a lot of potential for impact within the region. Obviously, plastic pollution here is a big issue, so I think that's highly relevant to the region, and that's a big plus. The one thing we would want to get a bit more comfort on is the scale up, right? And that was one of the questions, like how do you go from your current scale to ultimately the commercial scale? Thank you. Good job, everyone. Thanks.
Yeah, again, wonderful constructive feedback. Congratulations on being here, everybody. The moment of truth is approaching. Let me invite you to take your seats so that you, along with everybody else in the auditorium, can witness what is about to happen. Thank you, judges, for your insights.
That's right, Steve. We've reached the most highly anticipated moment of today. Before we announce the winners, we'd like to share a little bit more about the trophies that we'll be handing out today. So these are handcrafted by local artists from Singapore's Ugly Wood Company, who specialize in repurposing discarded wood into furniture and gifts. The light bulb is a signature feature of the TLC trophies, and it represents human ingenuity and breakthrough technologies that exemplify the spirit of TLC. First up, we're going to unveil the results of the popular vote, as voted by you, the audience. I'd like to invite Jessica Chiam, founder and CEO of EcoBusiness, to the stage to join me in handing out this award.
Welcome back, Jessica. Going to be interesting, isn't it? Always a little bit curious to see what the popular vote winner is.
Definitely. This is
not determined by our judges, remember.
Exactly. Totally determined by the audience. Okay. And we're ready to see the results of the popular vote. So the popular vote goes to Up Catalyst.
And wasn't it close? 24% compared to 22% for Meta 8. And not far behind them, Macrocycle Technologies. So cameramen are ready, photographs being taken. Thank you, Jessica. And so we'll move on because things are starting to get serious. To our first investment to be awarded today, we will be presenting a $100,000 investment from Carbon Fix. And I'd now like to invite Michael Clark, advisor, Carbon Fix, on stage to help us present this award. Michael, good to have you with us. Round of applause for Michael, please, ladies and gentlemen. And so, the Carbon Fix Award goes to Yama! Many congratulations to Yama for winning this opportunity on behalf of Carbon Fix. Photographers are amassed, and that will be a nice memento for everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you. Many thanks, Michael. Okay, for our next award, we will be presenting another $100,000 investment, this time by Kibo Invest. And I'd like to invite Cornel Tetera, Investment Director, Climate, Kibo Invest, onto the stage to help us present this award. A warm welcome, Cornel. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And the Kibo Invests Award goes to Space Cool. Many congratulations, Space Cool. Again, more photographers than there were at my daughter's wedding the other day. Well done. Many congratulations. Enjoy that. Thank you very much. And so now we move on to our last award in this category, and this will be presenting a $100,000 grant by Enterprise Singapore, and Emily Liu, Assistant Managing Director, Innovation Enterprise Singapore, is joining us on stage. Nice to see you, Emily. Thank you for helping us out here. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the Enterprise Singapore grant goes to Endo Enterprises. Many congratulations, Endo Enterprises. $100,000 grant. And do pose for a lovely, memorable photograph. And many thanks, Emily. And let's give Endo another round of applause. As we move on to the winners of the A-Star Development Funding Prize for the finalists in our decarbonization track. And for this category, A-Star providing up to $2 million in development funding. And I'd like to invite Irene on stage to help us with presenting this award. Thank you, Irene. Good to see you. And so the A-Star Decarbonization Prize goes to Meta 8. Well done, Meta 8. Congratulations on winning that opportunity from A Star. Thank you indeed. Can you feel the tension in the room? The most highly anticipated moment of the day. For the presentation of our next two prizes, I'd like to invite Mr. Ng Boon Hyong, CEO, Temasek Foundation, on stage for the unveiling of the 2026 TLC winners. Mr. Ng, very good to see you. All right then, drum roll please. Our first Liveability Challenge 2026 grand winner is Yama! What an outstanding achievement. The grand winner, $1 million. Straight into Yama's bank account. Whoa, hold on. Aurelie, hold on a second. Let's have a quick word. Lovely, lifting the trophy above your head. Just give us some thoughts. How do you feel about having won this prize?
I mean, it's really exciting. I'm super happy because it means that we will develop locally. So I'm very, very happy for that. It's really reality. And to be honest, I was impressed by the first video and the people that really want to make something for the planet. This is what drives me every day. So I'm happy to be surrounded by people that trust that we can make change.
Many congratulations. Lovely to hear that. Thank you. Mr. Ng, thank you for remaining on stage as we unveil then our second $1 million winner. Ladies and gentlemen, the Liveability Challenge grand winner for 2026 goes to Meta 8. Photographers at the ready. And another $1 million has been allocated.
Couple more people.
Why not? Why not get everybody on stage? Why not indeed? I think you can see how pleased they all are. All right, let me come amongst you in order to hear how everybody's feeling. Who's going to speak on behalf of the organization? How are you feeling? I can see you're happy. Tell me about it.
Oh, we're very, very happy, and we will not disappoint. My team and I will make sure that we will deliver. This is a groundbreaking technology that really brings together so many technologies and enables so many technologies to bring about energy circularity, right? There's so much potential, especially in Southeast Asia, to bring about biomethanol production. And because our technology enables people to extract 2 times more power from every barrel of methanol that's produced, we will be a catalyst to accelerate the energy transition.
Truly exciting. Well done. Stay on stage, gentlemen. Aurelie, can I ask you and your team to join us again, and we'll have a group photo. And I could also ask Li Lang to join us on stage as well, so that everybody can get together for a moment that will be captured forever to celebrate this great achievement.
And while we're taking a photo with the grand winners, could I invite Jessica to the side of the stage? She'll be providing an overview of the comments from our judges on the 2 winning teams.
Yes, thank you. So while the photo taking is going on, I have been assigned to explain why these 2 teams are the grand winners for 2026. And I think really it comes down to the use case. And for Yama's case, you know, it's very relevant to Singapore. Look, you guys over there. Yes.
Sorry, don't be distracted.
Don't be distracted by me. And the low CO2 stream is costly to capture. I'll just pause.
Yep. Right after this, we'll get Jessica to share.
It's not often that Jessica's shouted down.
Okay, and on Meta 8, and obviously, you know, we've heard from them as well, and I think the use case here in Singapore and the region is very strong, very attractive numbers because you're solving the issue before combustion, which is a pressing need today. And I think, you know, there are some areas of improvement, of course, in these technologies, but I think, you know, the TLC platform really, truly brings these technologies to life. So huge congratulations on the 2 teams. The judges had a very, very tough choice. I know I was told by my team that it was really impossible to choose between all of you. But I think, you know, we have our winners, and we'll continue to support all 8 of you from today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. And if I could invite you, Jessica, to please join the rest of them on stage. And if I could invite the rest of the judges and the rest of the finalists to join us on stage for a big group photo.
Thank you, judges. Up you come. Shall we tighten up a bit, ladies and gentlemen, so it's easier for those without the big wide frame lenses? Also, Sheeran and I don't want to be in the shot. We don't deserve it.
And on 3, can we get everyone to shout TLC? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you so much. If I can now invite everybody to, on the bottom of the stage, right in front of the stage, we're going to take a picture with the whole audience. So if you can get the audience to also stand up. Oh, yes. Can we invite you to step down off of the stage? Step down.
So come down the stairs, ladies and gentlemen, and then align yourselves in front of the stage, and then we'll get a camera on the stage to take a photograph of absolutely everyone.
And everyone in the audience, don't be shy. You can stand up and join us. Yeah, that's right. Let's stand up. You can move towards the middle. If all our guests can join us and move forward. We'll try to fill in the gaps in the middle and squeeze in a little bit more.
Oh, everyone's getting the right idea. Well done. In you come. It's a big day. Lovely to capture it in this way.
There's some people at the back. Please come forward and join us for the photo as well. Don't be shy. Make sure you can see the camera.
that looks good, I have to tell you. That looks really good, everyone.
Hold. We have a few more photos. One, two, three. Let's shout TLC. Ready? 1, 2, 3. TLC! And one more time for the video.
Which means you can be dynamic, you can move around,
You can wave
do
at
all
the
sorts
video.
of funny things.
One more photo from Daniel for one of our photographers. Yeah.
All right,
Thank
well
you
done, everybody.
so much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, and many congratulations to both grand winners and all of our finalist teams today. Thank you for all of that hard work that you've put into your solutions and your amazing ideas. We're sure this is only the very beginning and that all teams we've heard from today will be attracting a lot more investment and more opportunities beyond what we've witnessed here. Thank you to those in person and online from different time zones who've been with us throughout this entire journey. We have come to the end of this exciting finale.
This event would not have been possible without the support of all of our partners.
We'd like to thank TLC's presenter, Temasek Foundation. A huge thank you for your vision and leadership in this important initiative.
We'd also like to thank our strategic partners and judges from Carbon Fix, Kibo Invest, Enterprise Singapore, and last but not least, A-Star. We'd also like to thank our challenge partners, our venue partners, our amplifier partners, and our outreach partners.
Yeah, thank you all for journeying with us today. We hope you've enjoyed yourselves and feel inspired about the innovations that we've seen here and their potential impact for the world.
A huge thank you to the working teams from Temasek Foundation and Eco Business and the production crew that worked tirelessly to deliver this event behind the scenes. And last but not least, thank you to our audience.
Please do scan the QR codes on the back of your badges to fill in our feedback form. We'd love to hear from you. And the second one is the commute form. Once again, please let us know how you got here for our carbon emissions accounting. Do help us spread the word about TLC by posting to your networks with the hashtag TLC2026.
Please do join us for networking outside the room. We have drink station outside for networking. And a reminder to return your lanyards. And thank you once again for coming and joining us for the Liveability Challenge 2026. And we'll see you next year.
Good night, everyone.